Good day to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning into this, the MRC BF1 League Round 2. This is the BMW Sauber F106 car at the South City Long SO4 circuit, presented today by Sim Broadcasts here on twitch.tv/Sim Broadcasts. My name is Travis Mehlinger, and I'm joined this morning for me, this afternoon for Tom Jones. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm good, thank you, Travis. I'm good and looking forward to the second round. We had a fantastic first race, and I'm hoping we get another great race here today.
I agree. Thank you for joining me today. We just saw the graphic on the screen for the schedule. The second round today at South City Long. Here we've got a look at the course. This is a very challenging, twisting, turning, South City of London street circuit. 15 turns if you count that little kink coming toward the start-finish line. The infield, if you want to call it that, of this circuit is very tight. Concrete walls, Armco barriers very close to the circuit, lots of fast sweeping corners linking together these very slow sections. Incredibly challenging drive, especially in these very fast Formula One cars today.
Yeah, it's sort of Monaco-esque, really, isn't it? Nice and close together.
It is. A few longer straights, but it is much like Monaco in that respect. We'll take another look at the car really quickly. As we said a moment ago, this is the BMW Sauber F1.06 Formula One car. This is the machine that BMW bought into with the Sauber team in the 2006 season. It has a 2.4-liter V8 mid-engine rear-wheel drive, making about, I believe, 750 horsepower, if I recall correctly. 720 horsepower. It's right there on the screen. I was trying to recall while I was staring off into space, but I had the information right there in front of me. A very light 1,169 pounds, huge power-to-weight ratio. These machines do have traction control. Some drivers may elect not to use that. We'll listen for that as we see cars go around. As we look to the driver standings now, one round down, Gabor took first position and a point for the fastest lap last week. He's at the top spot with 26 points. Alexi Lemerto, last season's champion, in second place with 18 points. And in third, Zdravko Toponiak, an impressive performance to fall back in the order and then all the way up to the podium positions when we last saw these drivers 3 weeks ago. 15 points there in third position. Ayub in fourth, Sean Lee in fifth position, Rick Cardall in sixth, Emre Can Sivri in seventh, Daniel Lekostic in eighth, Christian Sanotsky in ninth, and Lorenzo Lucidi there in 10th. And on the right-hand side, you can see the rest of the order, 11th down to 20th. And here we go. We have the team standings after one round. Team Citus on Gabor's performance 3 weeks ago in first position with 26 points. Fragmaster in second position with 19 points. Team Citus, the first Team Citus team in third position. Gabor, the representative for Team Citus 2 in the top spot. Team Citus in third position with 18 points. Born to Race in fourth. Pixel Air Attack Racing in fifth position. Team Citus 3 with an extra I in it. We'll talk to our producers about that when we're done. 8 points in sixth position. Master Race Car, the hosts of this series, in seventh. GD Team in eighth. And Race Green rounding out the points scoring teams in ninth position with 1 point. All right, Tom, in the background, we do have cars going around. I don't see any times set yet, but I am personally watching Sean Lee at the moment, who set a blistering time in the first qualifying session. Here we see him on screen now going through these sweeping bends onto this back straightaway that is actually I believe you would call it a carriageway. I would call it a highway or an interstate highway. Down the hill now and into this challenging final corner. Gets the car tucked in nice and tight down to the curb. And away past the barriers. We've got the qualifying results from the first session on the screen. Alexi Lemerto at the end just got past Sean Lee, nearly into the 13-second bracket on a 14:09. Sean Lee there, a 10th behind him. As we watch more cars going around, Sean Lee set the time 1:15:35 seconds. We know he can go a lot quicker than that. And Ayub, the only other runner yet to set a time on a 15:40. Tom, I'm out of breath. Take it away, please.
Yeah, so we've got all the drivers filtering through now. They're a fair bit off what they did in the previous qualifying session, so definitely going to be seeing the times tumbling on down there as Alexi Lemerto then puts in a 14:36 to go provisionally on pole position. Going to have to be watching out mainly for drivers being careful with their final corner because they can make and break their run right there if they go a bit wide. I know there's a bump on the apex there, so they do need to be careful with that one as well. So just about to have, I believe, our first top 10 of provisional runners through. The times, of course, slightly slower because their this is top 10 shootout. Sorry, my bad. Going to have people with their times, of course, being slower because they're going to be on colder tires. Going to have to take probably a couple laps to get them fully up to temperature. And then we have our top 10 have done their first laps, and of course they will be tumbling down shortly. These times.
Yep, Alexi Lemerto takes at the top spot, 14:36, just a few hundredths ahead of Gabor. Zdravko Deponiak did a very slow first lap. He set a time in the minute 30 range. Guess he was going around warming up the tires really well before he decided to take a flying lap. It's kind of a risk because you want the grip from R2s around here, but it's easy to overheat them if you go around a second time, but clearly made it work. 3/10 off in the third position. One thing, we're on board with Gabor here. We could see him, yes. So this is one of the fun things we could see about this circuit because of the contour of this final corner and the length of this straight. It is really important to carry lots and lots of speed down to the first corner. So he takes a nice wide entry into that last corner, shoots down this front straightaway. Now we can see him close to the barriers, down into the compression there. That does a lot of damage to the suspension. Hard on the brakes all the way down into this hairpin, just misses the wall. Left tires over the curb to help the car turn in. Now he's going to jump on the binders right here. Hard right corner, 90 degrees all the way out to the Armco on the left side of the road. Over the bump, now pitches the car into the right-hander. Slows down for the left. These corners here agonizingly slow, and he decides to abort the lap. Looked like he clipped the barrier on the first of those left-handers. As we now jump to Alejandro Tres Palacios, who's coming around this very challenging right-hand corner. It's at the apex of the corner is at the bottom of the hill, and then you immediately turn back uphill. So you get the nice compression to help get the power down, but because these cars have so much power and the car is so slow, or the corner is so slow, very difficult to get the power down. As we watch Alexi Lemerto in first position, now coming through the same corner. We just watched Alejandro Tres Palacios go through. Great onboard shot looking back to his helmet. Coming down this carriageway, will soon pop over the crest right now, and then hard on the brakes into this final corner. He's missed the apex. Oh, he gets it slowed down and makes a late entry. Might not lose too much time here. Now snaking through the barriers and over those curbs to come across the line, and improves ever so slightly, about 8 hundredths.
Yeah, we know he can go faster. He did previously, as we just got Gabor getting out the way there. Here we go. We've got number here coming around these tight sectors. Another, I think that's Sean Lee diving out the way for him as he's coming on round nicely onto the apex, using all of the road possible, just keeping his flow up nicely, keeping the speed high, and nice all the way out to the barrier, cutting in nice all the way, using all the road, getting really close to the apex there. Perfect, absolutely inch perfect. And again, running apex to just outside the wall, and then getting the flow out, hard accelerating down onto the motorway, just getting the speeds, really high speeds up here. Another car just getting out of the way for him as he's coming along, to braking just before the 50, using all of the road into the apex and getting a nice exit there all the way out to the barrier. I spotted. We go on to Sean Lee now.
Yeah, it looked like Zdravko, when he was coming out of the final corner, just got on the power a little bit early, and it just drifted out wide to the barrier, made kind of a late exit, was not going to be able to get the power down to carry the speed down the front straightaway. Watching Sean Lee over the crest now and onto the motorway. Thank you for that a moment ago. I called it a carriageway. Sean Lee aborts. Oh, there we go. I had a brief blip there on my screen. My apologies. Here we see Sean Lee making this nice wide entry into the final corner so he can shoot down this straightaway. This brilliant overhead shot from a blimp or a helicopter. It would be a blimp here in the United States, probably a helicopter in Europe. In my ear, I've heard it's a blimp, it's not moving. So it's a blimp. We'll call it that from now on. Sean Lee hard on the brakes into this first corner. Misses the apex, aborts the lap. Nobody's going to give us a clean lap, Tom. This is very frustrating. Only about 2 minutes left for somebody to do that.
Yeah, I think it's the curse of the camera. Whenever we seem to get on with someone, they seem to make a slight error and have to abort the lap. I think I think blame Pete for this one.
That's fair enough. I'm okay with that. Rafael Costa, we're watching Rafael Costa, this Ferrari-inspired car. Brilliant-looking machine. A really nice paint job on that machine. Out of it is. I'm also hearing our producers are very excited to talk to us today. It has our logo on it, so of course it looks good. Rafael Costa on the power coming out of the final corner, weaving through the barriers. Nice wide line out to the barrier, keeps it nice and tight here. This is the shortest line around the circuit. Doesn't save that much time. Great shot on board. Oh, the rear of the car just stepped out in the compression there. That is really scary. It's about 190 miles an hour. Just misses the apex, but decides to keep his foot in it. Now throws the anchors overboard to make this right-hander. He's a little wide of the barriers, not quite as confident as his competitors. Hard on the brakes. Big slide into this corner, but manages to keep it off the barrier on the left. Down on the brakes, nice and slow, negotiating these barriers here. Just misses the Michelin signs on the inside. On the power, using the downforce all the way around these sweeping left-hand bends, and now down the hill. Tricky braking here because it's downhill. Manages to get the car slowed down, very tight on the apex and over the curves, all the way out to the barriers on the left. Wide of the apex on the left-hander there, but managed to keep it off the concrete barrier on the exit of the corner, through these sweepers and up onto the motorway. He has a little bit of traffic ahead of him, but the traffic has been pretty good about getting out of the way of cars coming through. He'll brake at the 50-meter board. Oh, just gets the bump. Manages to turn the car in and keep the rear from going all the way around on him. Impressive driving. Will cost him some time, but he did manage to save his lap, and he dives for pit lane. Tom, we cannot get a break here, and the clock has run down without anyone improving. We have Alexi Lemerto at the top. We'll watch for other cars to come by. I see Gabor out on circuit, so he could yet improve, but we have Alexi Lemerto in the top spot, presently 1400ths ahead of Gabor. Zdravko Toponiak in third position, about 4 tenths back, and then Sean Lee in fourth, Rafael Costa in fifth, Ayub El-Anouni in sixth. As we watch Gabor come around to see if he can improve, he needs to find 1400ths of a second. A little bit wide out of the final corner, but negotiating the barriers now. Tom, take him across the line.
Down start finish. Let's have a look. Does he improve? Does he get to that pole position? Yes, he does, but not by enough. He only he improved by 700th of a second. It just wasn't enough. And I'm hearing, I think Sean Lee is the last car on track on the final corner at the minute. I think we can hear him coming up to the line now. Let's see what he can do through here. There he goes. And he's third position with that final lap. So I said earlier on that they're going to be improving and getting right. The times are going to come flying on down, and they just didn't come down that much.
No, they didn't, but our competitors did get close to the times they set in practice and in the first qualifying session. There we see the results. In the top spot, Alexi Lemerto, last season's champion. Second in the points in the second season of the MRC BF1 Championship. At the top spot, pole position, 1 minute 14.28 seconds. Gabor Jura in second position. In third, we have Sean Lee, about 500ths clear of Gabor, very tight at the top. He just pipped Zdravko Toponiak, who was third until the very last gasp, now starting fourth on a 14.67. Rafael Costa in fifth position and Ayub El-Anouni in sixth, the last of the runners in the 14-second bracket. We have Prasant Sandaravelu in seventh, Pablo Saitone in eighth, Alejandro Tres Palacios in ninth, and Akshay in 10th. Tom, this is pretty competitive at the top. Times fell off as we got toward 10th position, but the top 5, top 6, all within a few tenths of each other. Strategy. How do these guys compete with Alexi Lemerto and Gabor?
Well, you're going to have a few different options, of course, with this sort of circuit. You've got some nice long straights, and then you've also got some really tighter corners. Saw some notes from Number earlier today. So Strugger, I think is how you say it. I might be wrong there. I do apologize. Came up with some notes with some different strategies, tire strategies, and downforce strategies that they can be running. So we're gonna have to look out for them, of course. It's going to be a draft train down the start finish straight and the final straight. So we'll have to see how those plan out.
Yeah, I think the most important note that he mentioned when we chatted with him before the race is he said he believed that an R2 stint followed by an R3 stint or the other way around could work. So entirely possible we could see some drivers go around on R2s. It's risky. They offer a lot of grip, but they do wear out more quickly. But we might see some competitors try that, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then obviously very tight twisting and turning circuit, difficult to pass except at the end of these long straights. Trying to pass in the inner parts of the circuit, very tricky. Very dangerous, but some drivers, we've got some aggressive drivers in here and some very talented drivers who might try to take those opportunities. As we see in the background, the officials are starting to set the grid. So we will take a break for a moment while they get the grid together and do the driver briefing. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Welcome back to the second round of MRC BF1 League Season 2, presented by Sim Broadcasts. I'm Travis Mehlinger, here again with Tom Jones. In the background, we are setting the grid, just wrapping up the driver's briefing, and we have a few things to chat about before the drivers take the grid and run the formation lap. One is the possibility of a safety car. I don't believe, if I recall, we saw a safety car last week. We had a few drivers 3 weeks ago, my mistake. I believe we didn't see any safety cars. A few drivers went off and gave us some close calls, but were able to free themselves. Much different circuit here today, Tom. The barriers are very close, and especially on this run down from the start. It will be a standing start. Very fast run down to the first corner. The track starts wide and then narrows past the apex. I think there's a very real possibility of a safety car in the first corner.
Yeah, you don't have the runoff here that we had at KY2, I think it was. Got the walls instead, slightly less friendly than a gravel trap.
Yes, indeed, and we can see on the screen here some of the rules and the map of the circuit. The most notable one here is that drivers must use 2 different compounds during the race, and we talked before we broke for the drivers briefing that one of the strategies that could come into play is R2 and then R3 or vice versa, as we see cars on the grid now in the background. This is not the start. They will take off for a formation lap. The drivers are responsible, as they are in real Grand Prix racing, for going around from the grid, finding their starting position, and then taking the lights to actually roll off. And there we see Alexi Lemerto in first position with Gabor behind him. Alexi second in the championship, Gabor first. Positions reversed from the championship standings right now. We will see these guys going around, warming their tires, and we'll have to look for the onboards and maybe listen to see if anyone is going to go from the start without traction control. Take a little bit more control over the power, not let the traction control get in the way to try to make a quick start. We have the driver standings on screen as we watch cars go around in the background. Gabor in first position off his win and fastest lap a few weeks ago with Alexi Lemerto in second. Zdravko Toponiak in third, Ayub Elanouni in fourth, Sean Lee rounding out the top 5 in the driver's standings. And there you can see the team standings. Team Citus 2 on Gabor's performance a few weeks ago. In first position, Fragmaster with numbers performance, Zdravko Toponiak's performance in second. The first Citus team in third, Born to Race in fourth, rounding out the top 10 in the team standings. Pixel Air Attack Racing on 10 points. Ooh, Tom, scary moment there in the background. We could see that Alexi Lemerto was hard on the brakes, trying to warm up those tires, and Gabor came over the crest. Fortunately, he was looking to the left. He may have been able to see him at the last moment. We just saw him come in the shot and then get hard on the brakes. He went past Alexi Lemerto, which you're not supposed to do on the formation lap, but I suspect the officials will probably let that one slide because there's no way he could have seen Alexi Lemerto slowing down there. That
was indeed a close one. Very lucky that there was just plenty of room for him just to slot the car in and not have anything to worry about with that. I should think it'd let it slide though, because it was only a temporary thing, and Alexi Lemerto was able to get straight back on through.
We do have one car starting from pit lane. That is Guilherme Moreira in the 44 machine there at the line. But we look to the grid now. Alexi Lemerto on the left side in pole position. That's the clean side of the racetrack there. He'll have the inside line through that sweeping bend in the compression at the bottom of the hill, with Gabor alongside and Sean Lee right behind him. The last few cars taking up their grid positions in the back now. We can see the extra safety car, the medical car, if we want to call it that we hope nobody gets hurt in a simulation race. All the cars on the grid now. We wait just a moment for the lights to come up as Michael Malik stops the car behind the grid. Lights coming on now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. All the throttles coming up. Engines at full song. And we are away. Lights out. Alexi Lemerto takes off from first position. Gabor jumps in right behind him, slots in behind. Oh, that's Gabor, who's off into the wall on the right side of the circuit. In the background, Zdravko Toponiak takes up second position. Didn't see what happened to Gabor. We'll have to look at that. He's fallen all the way back to fifth. He was hard into the wall, so that's going to be he's going to have a lot of damage on the right side of that machine as we look at David Gudge in 11th position, nearly getting into the back of one of the race green machines. But at the front of the grid, we see everyone getting through cleanly. Alexi Lemerto still running in second position. That's Costa got robbed by Gabor there. Just got into the back of him and turned him around, put him into barriers. Gabor made up a position from 5th, having fallen from pole position, but that's kind of a naughty way to do it. The official's probably going to have a look at that. Now watching Ayub El-Anouni back to David Gudge, coming down the hill, cars running line astern into this very tight corner at the bottom of this hill. Other than that first lap schmozzle, most everyone through cleanly.
Yeah.
As we see. Yeah, Alexi Lemerto coming down here with Zdravko Deponiak missing, looked like damage to the front left wing is bent very badly, but he does sneak through into first position. Tom Jones, 1 lap down, Zdravko Deponiak in the lead.
Yeah, I think Zdravko is indeed running the R2, so he's going to have that extra bit of pace at the start here. He's going to try and run away, I believe, front at the start, try and build a bigger gap. I think because he's running the R2s, he's probably going to have to do an extra pit stop maybe, unless he possibly decides to go to the R4, but I don't know if that's going to be able to go the full length of the race. Very hectic opening lap. Definitely the tighter track is definitely causing a lot more incidents than what we saw last time out. And now we see P7, the fight for P7 here with Saito. And that's I think it's the Gabor going into the pits or coming out of the pits. I think I'm not 100% sure there.
Yeah, that's Gabor coming out of the pits now. He had some damage, went in to repair it. Now he has all of this work to do from the very back. Did not change tires, so didn't take new rubber, but did have to repair damage. Zdravko Deponiak is driving away from Alexi Lemerto. We're not accustomed to seeing this. Alexi Lemerto must be on a different tire strategy. No way he's running R2s, or he would be right there on top of Zdravko Deponiak, hearing that he is indeed on R3s. So the strategy that Zdravko predicted turned out to be a prediction of his own strategy, which is to run R2s at the start and then switch to R3s. Should be able to make it on one stop. The fuel will go that distance, but it will be a question of tires as we see him jump on the brakes and bring the car down to the apex into turn 1 for the 3rd time.
Just see him here, just driving away nice and clear. I wonder if he's going to go for the damage repair at his pit stop, get that front wing. But I wonder how much of an effect that's going to have on his car through the tighter corners that we have here. He's already built, I think, a 3-second gap to second place. So he's got a nice bit of clean air. He's got Sean Lee just trying to catch up to the back of Alexi Lemerto there. Just a cool 1.5 seconds away. And he's got a nice big buffer behind him of 3 seconds back to Ayub.
Yeah, Alexi just creeping away from Sean Lee, but at the front, Zdravko Deponiak we're not accustomed to seeing anyone drive away from Alexi Lemerto, but Zdravko Deponiak, with superior equipment, at least for the first stint, is flying off into the distance, picks up another 10th over the last timing line. I think this is the complexion of the race becoming clear to us pretty early, is that Zdravko Deponiak going to use the softer rubber and more grip to try to build a huge lead, and then use that buffer to stay in front. Though, no, Zdravko Deponiak is in pit lane. He is stopped in his box. We saw him just start to fall down the timing order as the whole field goes by. Not clear what this strategy is at all. If this is strategy, perhaps he picked up more damage and we didn't see it.
Yeah. I've just heard in ear that it's tires and fuel he's gone for. He hasn't fixed that front wing, but he's changed to go more for a longer run now onto the R3s, I believe it was.
It's interesting. I wonder, we'll have to ask him after the race, if this was deliberate to get a quick start and build a little bit of time before he goes on to his main strategy. I can't believe this will actually work. But he's just got one slower car to get through here. That is the machine, the 46 machine of Costa, this Ferrari-inspired red machine with sim broadcasts all over it. We really like how this car looks. Zdravko should get through him pretty easily and then set off in pursuit of 12th position with a big gap. He'll have room to run and set fast laps on these fresh R3s.
Yeah, as Costa has gone into the wall there. It's of course he's down a bit with a bit of damage after the coming together with Gabor on the opening lap.
Yeah, that also let Morera get through him. Costa get into the wall right as Morera went through. Looks like he is struggling very badly in this car. As we look ahead to Sean Lee running in second position. Oh, back to Ronnie Krampus, who just went through Jeff and Jakob. These two battling. Jeff and Jakob going to go hard on the brakes down to the inside. He's going to overshoot the corner pretty badly. Ronnie will do the over-under and get past him one more time. That's Tres Palacios, my mistake. Ronnie Krampus lost the position briefly as Tres Palacios was a little bit too deep on the brakes. And Ronnie goes off in sixth position.
He's Oh, sorry, Travis, you go.
No, that's okay. We heard in our ear that there was a penalty, but I didn't catch who it was. So we'll check with the liaison who that was. Watch. Yeah, Guillermo Morera crossed the pit lane blend line when he came through from his pit lane start. So he will make another trip to pit lane, perhaps a bit earlier than he anticipated. Tom, what were you about to tell us?
Oh, Jacob's just into the wall there. I wonder what's happened. That's a lot of damage on his car there. And got Morali there away, and M. Sanchez coming on round, trying to figure out what the guys in our area trying to figure out what happened there with that collision. If you can see the car limping back, that's definitely, he's had a big crash at the back there. He's just got to limp that thing back to the pits, and I wonder if we're going to get some sort of safety car around that. But I think he should be close enough to get out of the way soon without having to worry about that. Alexi Lemerto will be hoping that doesn't happen. He's already built himself a 2.3 second lead, and he's away at the front. He's got a nice cushion back to Sean Lee, who's then got a 4-second gap behind to Ayub.
Yeah, the last car in the order was able to get past Jeff and Jakob, so Jeff and Jakob will have plenty of room to limp that car back to pit lane. So we should see him in pit lane shortly. I anticipate that damage will be terminal, or he will be stopped for a very long time. We'll keep an eye on him as we now look to Alexi Lemerto one more time, coming through these sweeping bends down the hill, back up this ramp and onto the motorway for the sixth time, with a 2-second lead over Sean Lee, who is running very well there in that second position. Ayub El-Nouni in third. Prasanth Sundaravelu in fourth. Good performance for him. Satone in fifth. Ronnie Krampus running in sixth. Ronnie had a difficult race a few weeks ago, but now running really well up there in sixth. 15 seconds off the lead. Don't expect him to be challenging at the front, but I think he'll be much happier with his performance this week than he was in the first round.
Yeah, just heard an area as well. It was Morali who went into the back of Jacob, which is what caused him all the damage at the start of the braking zone. So that's how he ended up getting his damage.
And Jakob is, I just tabbed to him in the background to see how he was getting on in pit lane, and I caught him just as he was coming off the pit lane speed limiter, but apparently forgot how much power the car has and then managed to pitch the car sideways into the wall while he was coming down the pit exit lane. So he'll have picked up a little bit more damage. Already a bad day gone worse for Jeff and Jakob. We'll see if he can recover. Following Alexi Lemerto in the front, about 3 seconds clear of Sean Lee. Hearing in our ear that Jeff and Jakob is going without traction control, which is, that is an impressive challenge to impose on oneself as he gets out of the way and lets Zdravko Deponiak through in the background. While we watch Alexi Lemerto down the hill, 3 seconds clear, I was just saying, ahead of Sean Lee. In the background, we can see the purple box around the 10th position car is Zdravko Deponiak, number 2. He is flying in the background with the fastest lap of the race on fresh R3s. He's going to be coming up on his competitors soon. He had a couple laps to run in clean air, about 2 seconds back of Morali and a few more seconds behind Akshay now, so he will have to negotiate traffic, work his way through the slower cars to try to find himself at the front once more.
Yeah. Oh, and we got Saito into the pits here. I wonder if this is a damage or tire change. I'm sure we'll find out shortly. I'm hearing tires damage and fuel for the change there for him. And on to Sean Lee now, just absolutely flying through this section here, just keeping it nicely in the groove, using all the road possible, hard on the brakes there, and just getting it nicely round onto the apex. We're on to Ayub, who's trying to hunt him down, but is still holding that 3-second deficit to him.
Sean Lee is really fun to watch, especially around this circuit, because the car is so quick, but he is driving so smoothly with the mouse. So you can be, obviously, I think I think everyone would agree, well, I hope everyone would agree, that it's easier to drive with a wheel because you get a bit more feel in your hands, and you get slightly more control. You could be you can feel more of how the car is behaving with the feedback in the wheel, but you can be a bit more precise with the mouse. And Sean Lee is putting on a precision clinic today. Doesn't quite have the pace of Alexi Lemerto. Very few drivers do, but Sean Lee so smooth around here with the mouse. It's really impressive negotiating these barriers as well as he has been today.
Yeah, it's impressive to see. He did put a good performance last time out. Again, I believe it was 6th place, and now he's going for his podium, first one of the season here today. Of course, only the 2nd race, but we're seeing I believe this is his teammate here, who's also putting on a great performance in 4th place, really trying to pick up some solid points for them today.
Yes, he is. I was about to say that. Speaking of Sean Lee, we were looking at his teammate, Prasant Sandaravelu, 2 Pixel Air Attack racing machines running 2nd and 4th. Good performance with them as we watch Ronnie Krompusch get all sorts of sideways coming through that sweeping right-hand bend. That would have been a safety car for sure if he had not caught it, but managed to keep the car under control, gets the rear of the car back in his command, and sets off through these very challenging corners. That one there that we just saw in the background, there's that uphill right-hand corner where the car gets light over the apex, and then you have to keep the car out of the cement barrier on the left side. We see David Gaj now just missing the same barrier as well. Very tricky corner in a circuit of tricky corners. Alexi Lemerto has gone through to start lap 10, so we will reset the order. Alexi Lemerto once more at the top, 5 seconds clear of Sean Lee in 2nd position. Ayub El-Anouni in 3rd. Prasant Sandaravelu, Sean Lee's teammate for the Pixel Air Attack Racing team in 4th. Ronnie Krompusch, Race Green running 5th. David Gaj in 6th. Zdravko Toponiak flying, absolutely steaming through. When we saw him a few moments ago, he was in 10th, now in 7th with the fastest lap of the race, ahead of Akshay in 8th, Murali in 9th. Gabor also making up position, started from pole, fell to the back after a coming together with one of his competitors on the start, fell from 1st to 5th, and then all the way to the back, taking a pit stop. Now up to 10th position, Costa in 11th, Guillermo Morera in 12th, Pablo Setone in 13th, Sanchez in 14th, Alejandro Chespalacios in 15th, and Jeff Jacob at the back after taking huge damage following a collision. Now running in 16th position. Hearing there's a bit more damage on Zdravko Toponiak's car, though I don't think it's going to slow him down. He's going to go through David Gaj here. Oh, David Gaj just blocks the inside there, makes the car just wide enough where he tucks into that little left-hand kink before the hairpin. Now coming down the hill, through these sweeping bends onto the motorways, Zdravko Toponiak thinks about taking that position as David Gaj went a little bit wide in the slipstream. Now is going to go through very easily. Looks like he has DRS. DRS wasn't even a twinkle in the engineer's eyes when these cars were racing in Formula One, but Zdravko Toponiak through very easily with a gap on David Gaj in 6th position with the fastest lap of the race in pursuit of Ronnie Krompusch, only 5 seconds ahead of him. How has Zdravko Toponiak made up all this time? This is stunning pace from Zdravko.
Yeah, I do wonder if he's possibly running less fuel to go for a 2nd pit stop, maybe because of the sheer pace he's doing here. He's absolutely flying. So he's surely running probably on slightly less fuel with slightly fresher tires as well. It's all coming together for him with some fantastic pace he's showing.
Yeah, I think I am excited. I'm going to put words in your mouth, Tom, and suggest that you are excited as well to talk to him after this race and get his strategy thoughts, because he gave us a number of possibilities to discuss before the race started. But I think he's given us pun intended from the producers. I absolutely intended that pun. We see him coming through the hairpin now. He may have thrown us a bit of a dummy in the pre-race discussion, because this looks to be a somewhat different strategy than he proposed. Flying on fresh rubber. I think you're right, Tom, that he's on low fuel, and looks like he's trying to make superior pace work for him with an extra stop to go quick.
Yeah, I wonder if he's possibly going to look to change tyres as well and to go more aggressive, because I know he noted the fact that there's also going to be higher tyre wear for the cars locking up. With the 76 laps around here, you could risk, if you only do the one tyre change from the R2 onto the R3, you're going to possibly see higher tyre wear and risk of tyre explosions with the heavy braking zones that we have here. As we see, Sandravel losing the back end, keeping it just out the wall, I think he did, but it's going to cost him a lot of time, and has allowed David, it's allowed that lap car right behind him there. It's a lap car, so there's nothing to worry about too much, but he's going to have to make sure he doesn't do that again because he could risk picking up some damage.
Yeah, and he just clipped the barrier on the way into the hairpin at the bottom of the hill there. So he's got a little bit of left front damage. We could see, I think the wing might be a bit bent as well. And we can tab through and see if he's picked up any suspension damage. He'll need to take a deep breath, slow down, gather his thoughts for a moment, and get the car back under the control. It looks, the camber looked to be a little bit off as we look at him come through. Hard to see from that shot. It looked like the camber was a little bit off on the rear wheels too. So he's clouded the barriers a couple times. He won't want to do that any further, or he will be making an extended stop to repair damage. Here he has quite a lot of suspension damage, so he will need to manage that. Not very far into this race yet. As we see Morera nearly get into the back of Sanchez ahead of him. Very close. He was a little bit late on the brakes. Looked like Sanchez could have broken a little bit early. Hard to tell, but nearly a collision there. But they continue unabated. Watching from the rear of Sanchez's car, looking over that rear wing at this beautiful New Dimension Racing logo. We appreciate that. Hard on the brakes into turn one. This appears to be a two-way fight for this position, but they have Gabor coming up behind them now. I believe that's Gabor. Yes, that is Gabor coming through their back markers. So Gabor through one of them now. Yes, as Sanchez jumps out of the way to let Gabor through, and Gabor now free again to set fast laps in pursuit of Akshay, who is only 2 seconds and change up the road from him.
Yeah, indeed. That was a lot of rotation he had through one of those corners just then, but he's got through, and he's just got to get hunting the guys ahead. As we swap back to our leader here, Alexi Lemerto, who's having quite a quiet race. He's got a 7.3 second deficit to Sean Lee behind him, and he's working his way on through some of the back markers there.
Yeah, impressive drive from Sean Lee, but very few drivers, as we said earlier, have the pace of Alexi Lemerto, or Gabor for that matter. Gabor, though, I think we might have expected him to come up the order more quickly. He did take a pit stop to repair that damage, so had the time of driving down pit lane and then being stationary to make up,
penalty,
but even so,
collision, lap 1, turn 1.
Even so, has not made up as much time as we might have expected. He's mired there in 10th position, has not gained much time on Akshay ahead of him, while Alexi Lemerto steams ahead. Meanwhile, looking at Zdravko Toponiak once more in 6th position, about 7 seconds back of Roni. And hearing that Zdravko Toponiak has been given a drive-through for causing a collision on lap 1, turn 1, that must have been with Gabor, because the two of them started not side by side. Zdravko Toponiak started behind him, but yeah, Gabor we saw go into the wall when Zdravko Toponiak was running alongside him, and we just missed it as they went under the bridge before the cameras changed. So Zdravko Toponiak drive-through penalty for a collision with Gabor on the first lap. He has even more work to do now as we see him dive to the left side of the road, hard on the brakes, in pit lane, safely inside the lines.
Yeah, he's going to need a safety car to climb back up the order now, really, isn't he? He's going to need it all bunched back up. As change to Gabor, I see from notes it's about 25 seconds you lose to do a drive-through here, so I think it's gonna put him out yet. Gabor goes past, so it's putting him out just behind
Drive-through
Gabor now.
penalty, car 31, causing a collision, lap 5, turn 10.
Yeah, we've got another drive-through penalty for the 31 car. That's Morali running in 7th position, so he will fall back the order. Also for causing a collision on lap 5. I don't know that we saw that. Ooh, that may have been the collision with Jeff and Jaka. So we can check on that. Gabor up to 8th position now. Zdravko Toponiak has fallen back to 10th. Gabor, while that happened, was through Akshay, now negotiating a back marker. So Zdravko Toponiak has all of that work to do. Looked like he had pulled a blinder of a strategy call, was flying on circuit, still has the fastest lap of the race, but now has a tall order to make up a further 15 or 20 seconds as Gabor goes deep in the corner into the wall. We can see some damage on the left front wing. Don't know if he'll have substantial suspension damage from that, but he went pretty hard into the wall, very deep on the brakes.
Yeah, I think the rear left camber looks a little bit off as well. So I think he might have some suspension damage as a result of that one. Needs to be careful not to do that again. That's going to cost him time working his way back on through.
Yes, that is the theme of this circuit, is the barriers are very close to the racing surface. So negotiating back markers and negotiating the course, very challenging. Lots of cars into the barriers here and there, and cars over the course of the race will slowly pick up suspension damage as they go through the parts of the circuit that feature huge compression. This turn right here where we see Sean Lee going through the bottom and then up over the hill here. When he comes down the ramp to negotiate the final corner, there's a huge compression and a bump right there, hard on the brakes, as he tucks the car into the apex. You can hear him tapping on the throttle on and off. He's using mouse. We'll remind everyone of that. So he doesn't have the nice progression of throttle like we would with pedals. You can hear him clicking the mouse to bring the throttle up, relying on the traction control to put the power down. And this, another area of huge compression. Car has to be set up to avoid grounding too much and to avoid causing too much suspension damage. Watching Sean Lee now negotiate the third, fourth, and fifth corners. Alexi Lemerto slowly getting away from him. This is looking like a more and more secure victory for Alexi Lemerto, though it is still early in the race. As we hear in our ears that Gabor is through Gauge. Gauge falling way back now. Gabor got that done quickly and has taken off way in the distance. As Jocko Tepunyak now also has caught and passed Murali. So back up to 8th position, was running as high as 6th or 7th, Tom, after his pit stop and coming up the order, but falling back through a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, indeed. He's just got to get the bit between his teeth again and just keep working on through. Got Alexi Lemerto just cruising away to the win. Just got to hope there's no safety car to bring that, bring the field back to him, because he's secure. He's 9.5 seconds clear at the minute. You got Sean Lee there, just 10 seconds behind. I think as Ayub, I'm not sure, Ayub's closing the gap to him. I think it's 9.5 seconds between the two of them. Oh, Ayub's come into the pits now for his pit stop. I wonder. We're going to assume he's probably doing his tyre change now and getting the fuel. I'll wait for confirmation on that one. So we're going to see how far down the order he drops out. Yeah, tyres and fuel. I've just heard, so we're going to have to see how far down the order he comes back out. He's lost at least one place, and we're going to see how many more he's going to lose as a result of this pit stop.
So he did take tires and fuel, as you said, Tom, but he did not repair damage. Guessing he's running a slightly softer suspension with slightly higher ride height, because he didn't need to repair damage. He didn't repair damage because he didn't need to repair damage. Suspension in pretty good nick on that machine. So Ayub Elanouni taking very good care of his equipment, falls back to 5th position. As we see Gabor now lurking in the background.
Yeah, just heard as well he changed from R4s to R3s, so he's going to be quicker again. He's got Gabor just, I don't know if he clipped the apex there, but it looks like he definitely hit the wall there. So he needs to be careful of this damage, these walls. He's really going for it. He's really trying to get back the time he lost at the start of the race.
Yeah, he's pushing really hard. It's easy to get a sequence of corners get one corner all wrong and then get the sequence of corners all wrong. And we saw that through turns 3, 4, 5, 6, where he was a little bit deep and then in the barrier and then late into the next corner and just got the rhythm completely wrong. Yeah, hearing that we saw him weave to the left side of the road there, and looks like he's picked up more damage than he really wanted to carry. And he is not catching Ayub Elanouni ahead of him. Ayub steaming ahead. Gabor got it all wrong and wasn't able to make up the time. Looked like he was catching Ayub Elanouni hand over fist, but now struggling a bit with the car.
Yeah, if he keeps picking up damage like that, he's definitely going to have issues. Ayub's got to get his temperature cycle. He's going through the heat cycles, gunning his tyres up to temperature again. So it's going to be interesting to see once he's finally got his tyres up to temperature, if he's able to get pulling away from Gabor.
Yeah, looking at Ayub's machine, the surfaces are coming close to temperature. They didn't quite have the internal temperature, the pressure's up yet, but we can see that he's managing it pretty well, driving really smoothly through this sequence of corners. Gabor obviously trying as hard as he can, pushing really hard to try to make up this time, as we see him come right up on the back of Ayub Elanouni's machine. This is the difference between Gabor's race and Ayub's race at the moment, is Ayub taking very good care of his equipment, driving smoothly, managing to stay ahead of Gabor, while Gabor is clattering all the barriers in every corner, making it a bit more difficult for himself than he might have if he had not been punted off at the start. But all he could do at this point is manage it, out of the final corner, gets good drive, puts the power down early, should have the slipstream for Ayub, might have a shot coming into the first corner, though he's a little bit far back right now. It's difficult to follow through the compression here, and I think he's going to be just a little bit too far away. He'll have to go around one more time, though they do have to negotiate this back. Marcus Ayub goes a little bit deep, wide through the first corner. Perhaps broke concentration a little bit with the back marker, who dutifully gets out of the way. Now a straight fight between Ayub and Gabor for 5th position.
Yeah, we just have to see now if he can look to make a move around some of these slower tight corners. He's right up behind him now. He's just got to get his apexes correct and stay ahead. It's going to be a slightly nicer place for Ayub to defend with realistically only one line on 3. He just needs to make sure he can cover the inside, and he shouldn't have too many issues with keeping him behind. It's getting all sorts. Oh, it's sniffing his gearbox there, getting really close to the back. You can tell he's really pushing. He's definitely got the pace advantage at the minute.
That is as late as you can be on the brakes, just inches away from Ayub's gearbox. Looked like he briefly locked the tires, but managed to just release the brake enough to avoid snatching that front wheel and causing a collision. Ayub, the tire temperatures have come up, but looks like he's struggling a bit for grip. Car a bit wonky coming through the final corner, but he manages to get the power down. I think he probably caught Gabor out there because he didn't make a very smooth entry into the corner. Just far enough away from Gabor now to survive one more challenge into the first corner. Gabor is going to be getting frustrated here. We can see how much quicker he is through these first few corners. Ayub is struggling here. Gabor struggling to get past him. There's no way through because there is only one line, as Tom said a moment ago. But we can see Gabor just inches away from the barriers here. Hard on the brakes, making up time on the brakes. The lines are very similar, but Gabor just that much more precise, making the track wider by a few more inches, and it shows in pace and in the closeness of these cars. Gabor, you could throw a blanket over these two now, and Ayub has to be sweating hard on the brakes one more time. Not quite as close, though. He's going to try to make the move coming up the hill. Thinks better of it. That would have been a very difficult pass.
Got
Probably
44
caused a
drive through
collision,
crossing entry blend
but
line lap 5.
chooses to fall back, use the slipstream, take one more shot coming into the final corner, and then down the front stretch. Heard in the background that there was another penalty, but I missed it. Tom, did you hear that?
Oh, I did as well. That's very late on the brake by Gabor. I think if maybe the aero dropped from being so close, and he did very well to bail out and not have a collision there. Speechless. It's very well to avoid that one. Zdravko Toponiak is right up behind Gabor now. All this fighting has allowed him to close the gap right up, and he is flying today. So it's gone from a 2-way fight to a 3-way fight for that P5 spot.
Yeah, and we know Zdravko has had superior pace. He drove up to first position on soft tires at the start, pitted, and was making his way through the order before he was given a drive-through penalty for causing a collision with the competitor we see immediately ahead of him, Gabor Jura. And now, all over the back of Gabor once more. Will certainly want to avoid causing a collision this time. But now Ayub El-Anouni has even more to worry about. 2 motivated drivers, as we see Gabor just get into the back. That could have been netcode. Just gets into the back of Ayub. But it looked, I think that was a bit hard to be netcode. That was pretty close, but Zdravko is now all over Gabor. He's going to go to the right side, just sneaks in between Gabor and the barrier, is through easily. Gabor going to jump on the brakes late and try to get through these two side by side as we don't see Ayub ahead of them now. Ayub disconnected. Oh, Ayub is lagging out. He withstood all of this pressure from Gabor. Appeared to not have the pace, but was withstanding the assault from Gabor lap after lap, allowed Zdravko to catch up, but now Zdravko is through, inherits 5th position as Ayub times out. That is a shame. That was fun to watch. Now Zdravko is through. Gabor is going to fall backward. Zdravko up to 5th position, though 50 seconds off the lead from Alexi Lemerto. That's a shame. Ayub was driving so well to keep Gabor behind him, and now times out. He has reconnected. He won't be credited with that lap. He'll fall back to 15th position all the way at the back, but he could make up some valuable points here. Still a long way to go in this race, only a third of the way through, so it's not all over for Ayub, though I think a top 5 is probably off the table at this point.
Yeah, I've been watching Alexi Lemerto a little bit on my other screen. As he comes back on screen now, he has been slightly offline and sliding around a little bit, so I wonder if his tyres are just starting to go a little bit. So I wonder if when he comes into the pits, if he's going to be doing a tyre change now, or he's going to be trying to extend these tyres for longer and then do his tyre change later on.
Well, he won't be extending those tires too long. Since you mentioned it, I tabbed back to Alexi as well to take a look at his tires and those rears. He is working the rear tires very hard. Wouldn't expect that here. The car does want to slide around some, and if you're not running traction control, well, even if you get into the traction control, you can certainly spin the tires slightly to wear them down, but substantially more wear on the rears than the fronts. So he might have just a rough estimate here. I think we can get something more precise in our ears, but I guess he's got another 10 or 15 laps on these tires before they wear dangerously thin, and he'll need to make a stop. Though it is working for him as we look back to Sean Lee's teammate now into the podium places. So Pixel Air Attack Racing drivers running second and third.
Yep. Just as we've said that about Alexi Lemerto, I've just had it pop up on my screen that he's just done his personal best lap of the race. So clearly not hindering him very much at all.
No, it won't hurt his pace, but he will need to start thinking about a pit stop because they will not last too much longer. As we look back to Ronnie Krompusch, should be very happy with his performance today. In fourth position, had a dismal week, or I should say a dismal race 3 weeks ago. Now running in fourth position as he, perfect timing, ducks in for pit lane, just misses the barrier to shorten the track as much as possible. Looking at Ronnie on all sides of that bright green, race green motorsports machine on the limiter and into his box. Right now, locks up the tires, does a nice slide right into the marks.
I wonder if he's
having should set off. Go ahead, Tom.
I wonder if he's changing tires or he's just doing tires and fuels. I'm hearing in my ear, so he's going on. I wonder which tire compound I'm suspecting probably onto R3. Gone from, I think I'm hearing R3 to R4. We're just going to double check that for you. R4 to R3 is what it's gone for. So he's going to get a bit more pace again out of his new tires. So he's got 50 laps to go, so he's probably going to do another stop with tire change.
Yep, he had to duck out of the way on the inside of the first corner there to make sure he didn't get into the driver coming through. Couldn't see who that was. I think it might have been Akshay coming by. As we look to Sandero Velu one more time, driving out of the final corner. As I was saying, Ronnie should be very happy with his performance today. Had a rough event a few weeks ago. Now nice and consistent. Also, looking at his machine, he has done very well to take care of his equipment. Didn't repair damage on that stop, as Tom noted. Didn't need to because all the suspension parts are in good shape. As we look to Zdravko Deponiak one more time, 12 seconds behind the Pixel Air Attack newsroom machine of Prasant Sundarvelu. Zdravko Deponiak takes the fastest lap of the race one more time. He has about 12 seconds to make up on third position. A little more than a third of the way through this race, Zdravko Deponiak, barring any of the unforeseen circumstances that could, of course, happen in the next 50 laps of this event, looks like he could be on for a podium. He's managed to make up the time that he lost for an early pit stop and then a drive-through penalty. He is driving really well, inches away from the barrier there. Zdravko and Gabor are so precise. Alexi Lemerto as well. You can see the difference in pace and in talent when they are using just a little bit more road than their competitors, inches here and there. As we see Prasant go through one of the back markers. Could not tell who the back marker was, but Prasant safely through in third position. As we look back now to a battle between Akshay and Ronnie Krompusch, one lap off the leaders. But we do have a fight for seventh position here.
Yeah, I think it just shows the pace of Alexi Lemerto at the minute with the fact that all the way back to seventh place has been lapped so far. And with just mentioning Alexi Lemerto, he has recently, just at last lap, taken the fastest lap of the race. So he is absolutely flying as Ronnie Krompusch is going a little bit all over the place with his car there. Nicely keeping out the barriers. As a result, that's going to lose the opportunity to try and put pressure onto him into the braking zone here.
Both of them very late on the brakes. Looked like Akshay was a bit later on the brakes. Ronnie Krompusch was able to make up a bit of the time through the corner. Though Akshay does get good drive. Should stay ahead of Ronnie coming into the first corner. Easily clear. Ronnie doesn't quite have the slipstream. So impressive watching the cars go through the compression at the bottom of the hill there under the bridge. As we see them come through here one more time. And we can see Akshay just not as close to the barriers as the front runners are. Roni is nearly as precise as drivers like Alexi Lemerto and Gabor. As now we look on board with Saitone in 9th position, 27 seconds back of P8, so he has plenty of clean air to just put in clean laps. In a points-paying position, doesn't want to throw that away. As we look to Zdravko Toponiak, who is through into 3rd position.
Yeah, I think that's just because Sandoval's come into the pits to do his pit stop now. I wonder if it's just going to be tyres and fuel. I'm not sure if he's... Oh, just fuel only, I've heard. So he's going to extend those tyres. I think he might be on the R4s then if he's doing that. I'll have to see it, which is just giving Zdravko Toponiak
car 11, driver penalty, causing a collision lap 15, turn 2.
Just heard that car number 11 has been given a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. So that's not going to be great for his race.
Yeah, we were just talking about Pablo Saitone, who was running in 9th position, a lap back in the points, but that might drop him back to 10th. He's got a lap on Alejandro Tres Palacios running in 10th, so he might be able to preserve 9th position. But that will cost him some time.
Oh, and in that action, Ronan Crompre has got past Akshay for that 7th spot, so he's just going to... He's going to try and pull away on now. He's creating a nice little gap for himself already, so he shouldn't really have to worry about any sort of pressure into the major braking zones. As I say that, he hasn't had the best exit out there, which has allowed Akshay to close the gap a little bit.
And we could hear, this is a good shot, because we could hear from Akshay the difference between Akshay and Roni and the drivers at the front. Akshay just a little bit tentative on the throttle coming through those slow corners, weaving between the barriers, trying to open up the circuit as much as possible, and just not quite as confident as the front runners. As we hear that Zdravko Toponiak has come into pit lane, just pulling away now on the limiter and into the fast lane. And this will be his 3rd stop of the race, 2nd stop of the race, my mistake. He's been through pit lane 3 times. One of those was for a drive-through penalty. So he falls back to 4th position. This will be close with David Gauge on the exit. I believe that's David Gauge on the outside. Yes, David Gauge going through. No, David Gauge. A car that looked like David Gauge, but was not David Gauge. Zdravko Toponiak does take off in 4th position. About, looks like 2 or 3 seconds clear of David Gauge. So Zdravko will have a back marker to negotiate ahead of him here, but manages to secure 4th position. Will be about 20 seconds, 25. No, only 17 seconds, 7 seconds. I'm struggling with mathematics today. About 7 seconds behind Gabor as they cross the timing line.
Gabor has also just set his, I think it's the fastest lap of the race he's done. So he has, clearly the damage isn't affecting him too much, and he's been able to get that bit between his teeth and has got going properly. So it'll be interesting to see how much he can close the gap to Sean Lee ahead, which is a comfortable 14 seconds for Sean Lee.
Yeah, we've talked about Sean Lee on and off, and we'll mention him again one more time. Sean running a rather quiet race today. He's been in P2 since Zdravko Toponiak demoted himself on an early pit stop and has stayed there. He's steadily falling back from Alexi Lemerto, as most anyone would do, because Alexi Lemerto is very quick and very talented in front. But hats off to Sean Lee. We're coming up on the halfway mark, and he's getting the job done in 2nd position, staying off the barriers, keeping it clean, taking care of his equipment. 18 seconds behind Alexi Lemerto, but 18 seconds behind and still good enough for 2nd place. A good drive from Sean Lee today as we come up on the halfway mark of this event.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of this race is also survivability. We've seen a lot of people picking up damage and just clipping the wall, and he's doing a fantastic job to just keep himself out of the wall and keep his car going. So he's gonna lose less time from any damage that other people will do. So
he is. I would like to. We'll see if Pete can get us an onboard shot here. I would like to follow Sean Lee on board because we can watch him, his mouse technique and how smooth he is on the wheel. We can see, the wheel bounces around a little bit as the car goes over the bumps, but we can see just how precise he is. He ducks a little bit to the inside there to indicate to the cars ahead of him that he would like to come through. They will have blue flags. Sean Lee managing the throttle and the brake. It's button throttle and button brake, so he has to be very delicate and rely on the traction control there. But we can see how smoothly he turns the wheel. Very precise, very small movements with his inputs. Akshay moves over to the left side of the road to let Sean Lee through. He'll use the slipstream, ducks to the inside to let Roni know that he would like to get through. Oh, and he gets on the power so early, relying on the traction control to get the power down and drive off the corner. firmly into Roney's slipstream now. He'll probably weave a little bit coming through the start-finish line. He does. Tucks to the outside. Thank you, Sean. He did this 3 weeks ago. He said he was listening to the broadcast as he was driving, so I'll try not to distract him too much. I think that's his business to choose to listen to the broadcast, but we don't want to mess him up if we do know he's listening. He's through Roney Krampusch. Roney gets out of the way. Sean showing us his excellent mouse technique through the sequence of corners, through the back markers, off in pursuit. Well, we'll say pursuit, but I don't know that he's going to catch Alexi Lemerto. But lost 2 seconds to Alexi Lemerto trying to get through the back markers, but showing us his excellent mouse technique and great driving today for second position as we look back to Gabor. 10 seconds behind Sean Lee coming through the first corner. Has Zdravko Deponiak. Well, it shows Zdravko Deponiak level with him, but I think the timing is not updated as Alexi Lemerto sets the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, still got this nice battle between Akshay and Ronan Krampusch going along as Akshay has got the drive out the corner. He's pulled off to the side, and I think he's already through there as Alexi Lemerto, our race leader, has come in for his first pit stop of the race. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going for. Feel only I'm hearing. Akshay is doing a great job defending. Ronan Krampusch is just still behind. He's going for the slipstream down this back straight here. He's just dropping back a little bit. So I wonder if he's maybe picked up a little bit of damage or something somewhere, which has caused him to drop a little bit of pace.
Yeah, we gave you a lot to do there, Tom. Looking for Alexi Lemerto to stop in his pit box, who is rejoining in second position now. Roney Krampusch tried to make a move on the outside of the final corner. Great defending from Akshay as Alexi Lemerto just gets out ahead of Ayub. Ayub was running in a very comfortable fifth position, fell back after disconnecting, has managed to recover to 11th. He's still on for the points. He's on the same lap as Jevin Jacob in second position. Back marker jumping out of the way of Alexi Lemerto. He's gone past Jacob, so that's Ayub Elanuni up into the points after losing a lap, not being credited with the lap he was on when he timed out, but now back into the points. It's going to be frustrating for him, but a good recovery as we're coming up on the halfway point. A long way to go yet for Ayub Elanuni to perhaps make up a couple more positions. He needs to make up one more lap in order to compete with the drivers 6th down to 9th, but a long way to go. Not over yet for him. Could still make a good recovery today.
Yeah, and from the pace we saw from him earlier, I think he definitely has the possibility to be able to do that. His pit cycle will be off slightly, of course, but we'll have to see how he does.
I mean, it looks like he's doing really well. He's not going away from Alexi Lemerto. Alexi does need to bring his tires up to temperature yet. They should be coming through the cycle on this lap or the next, but Ayub Elanuni not going anywhere, not giving me any breathing room. Oh my goodness, as he came over the crest there, the rear of the car stepped out, managed to gather it up. That would have been a huge impact in the barrier. I'm sure his heart will be in his throat. Probably that certainly would have gotten his attention more than his disconnect did a little while ago. Just missing the barriers there. He's very precise, just touches the barrier on the left. Ayub driving really well. Unfortunate that he fell back on a disconnect, but he is putting on a good performance. Looking back now from Roney Krampusch, who has Alexi Lemerto all over him. Roney not getting out of the way like he did for Sean Lee. Alexi, I think, is going to be getting a bit frustrated as, we had a bit of a netcode incident there. Looked like Ayub made a dive on Alexi. I think Ayub might be timing out one more time. That's really frustrating for Ayub. Roney stays to the right, lets Alexi through. It can be, I think it is a bit challenging to try to decide where to get out of the way on this circuit, but I think Roney had enough chances on the back part of the circuit that he could have let Alexi through. But Alexi through now, off in pursuit of Sean Lee, 10 seconds back, should easily inherit first position once again when Sean Lee has to stop. Ayub has in fact timed out once more. He will fall off the order once again. And Sean Lee comes into pit lane. Tom, there he is.
Yeah, he is. Interesting to see what he's doing here, whether he's changed tyres and fuel. Fuel only is what I'm hearing. So I think he might be trying to extend those and go for a later stop. Wonder if he's going to try and do the reverse of what Number's done with swapping onto an R2s later on. It'll be interesting to find out.
And Sean Lee rejoins in third position. So Gabor able to get through into second. When he stops again, I anticipate he will lose this position to Sean Lee because Sean Lee is right there, only a couple seconds back from Gabor on the road.
Yeah, Not 100% sure on it, but from looking at the timing screens, I think Gabor is a couple of tenths faster than Sean Lee round here. Or at least he has been. So once Sean Lee gets up to temperature, it'll be interesting to see how they're doing. Of course, Gabor will be lighter on fuel as well, so you'll have that on his side.
So on lap 35 now, getting close to the halfway mark in this race. We'll run down the order once more. We have a couple drivers yet to pit to shake up the order, or shake the order back into the positions we've seen. Alexi Lemerto has come back into first position after a cycle of pit stops. Second position is Gabor with the fastest lap of the race. About 14 seconds back of Alexi Lemerto, hearing in my ear that Akshay is in the pits. There he is, stopped in his box. Sean Lee in third, should be promoted to second once Gabor stops. Zdravko Deponiak recovering from an early drive-through. In fourth position, Prasant Sandaravelu in fifth position as Gabor, we see now, is stopped in pit lane. We wait to see what service he is taking. Certainly be fuel. Don't know if he will be changing tires. We wait for him to take off. He's stopped for a long time. Might be repairing damage and fuel. So no tires, but damage and fuel. So Gabor making a strategic decision there to repair the damage, get the car back into shape, and maybe set fastest laps to try to recover another position. Zdravko Deponiak goes through. 32.9 second stop for Gabor. That's terminal for his race. That's going to put him down behind Sandaravelu. Perhaps not behind Sandaravelu. I think he may have had a longer stop as well, because I expected to see him come through. There he is now. Ooh, this will be close on pit exit. I think Gabor is through pretty easily. He's through the first corner. Sandaravelu behind him, about 2 seconds on the road now.
Yeah, it's already sliding the car through on those cold tires. It's going to have just been painful sitting there waiting for those stops to be finished. But with the amount of times he sort of clipped the wall and stuff, I think it was needed for him. He's just got to get his head down, get the tires up to temperature, and just get chasing is what he's got to do now.
Yeah, he did a nice drift through the slower corners on cold tires, and then another drift through the faster left-hand sweep coming up over the crest to the high part of the circuit. That will have frightened him a little bit. As we see Alexi Lemerto coming through the same sweeping corners, he is only a few seconds on the road behind Gabor, so nearly lapping the field up to fourth place. It is the Alexi Lemerto show today, as we said a few times in the last season. Negotiating this corner now, just misses the barriers on the right and the left. Super smooth, inches away from the Armco there. And then up onto the motorway once more. Alexi Lemerto putting on a clinic.
Yeah, we mentioned last time out how amazing the pace of Gabor was last time, and Alexi Lemerto has taken that on board and just gone, right, today's going to be my day.
We watch him, this nice overhead shot. The blimp, I was reminded earlier, and I'll remind everyone watching once again, comes across the start-finish line to begin the 38th lap. Now halfway through the race, all the way out to the right side of the road. Hard. Oh, this is a great shot. It's a little bit of an arrow shot, but we could see pretty clearly just how quickly the car can decelerate hard on the brakes into the first corner, and you could see the stripes flying by as he was hard on the brakes into the first corner. Now inches away from the barriers, coming through the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh corners. Nice flowing, smooth line between the barriers. Just a little bit of a slide out to the Armco. Up through the highest part of the circuit now, and then down the hill into this hairpin. Alexi Lemerto showing us how it's done.
Using
beautiful camera shots from Mo.
He's using absolutely all of the road there, isn't he? Just getting it going. His pace is just incredible. I think we could be seeing here the only person not lap will be Sean Lee at this rate.
Yeah, I think you may be right. It's about a minute 14, 15 second lap. Alexi Lemerto is doing minute 14 second laps in race pace. About a second a lap faster than everyone else. So yeah, pretty sure you're right. He could catch. Zdravko was running laps about that quickly. Yeah, so I don't know that he'll catch Zdravko. Hearing that Zdravko is actually a little bit faster on race pace. So Alexi catching Gabor, won't catch Sean Lee unless Sean Lee has a mishap deeper into the race. But Alexi on pace to catch Gabor. Maybe Zdravko. Zdravko's pace falls off a little bit. Yeah, amazing pace and an amazing performance from Alexi Lemerto. But only halfway through, watching Sean Lee go through this sweeping bend right now. All the way out to the right side of the road, hard on the brakes, into the first corner, and off into the middle part of this circuit. for his 39th time. And now back to Zdravko Doponiak coming through the final corner with that wonky-looking front wing, not impacting the performance of the car too badly. Through the sweeping bins and across the line one more time.
Yeah, I think if it was affecting him badly, he would have got it fixed. But it's clearly he doesn't seem bothered by it at all. He's putting in some fantastic pace. He's nice and consistent, and he's doing the job he needs to do. He's currently sat like he's going to be on the podium. He's got a 15-second gap back to Gabor. He just needs to just going to be. I think it's going to depend on the strategy in terms of where he's going to finish out. See how he does. Maybe if any safety car is going to come out. See how that happens as well.
Yeah, that was a topic we discussed at the beginning of the race that has not come to pass. Probably the biggest risk at any of the circuits in this season for a safety car here at South City Long, the SO4 circuit. We'll watch Zdravko come through this hairpin corner one more time, gets the power down up the hill and then back out of it again to go through this series of sweeping bends. As we were saying, no safety car today. The possibility certainly is not off, though cars getting spread out now. No close fights on the circuit, though Sundarevilu in 5th position is only 2 seconds back of Gabor. I believe Sundarevilu is, if he's not catching Gabor, he is matching Gabor on pace, so we might have a race there. But the rest of the cars on circuit spread out now as we watch Zdravko Doponiak coming through to start his 40th lap. Sundarevilu hearing that he is closing in on Gabor, and we can see it on the timing tower now, only about 1.5 seconds back. So Gabor slowing down, or Prasant Sundarevilu catching up, or a combination of both. It looks like Gabor. Yeah, Gabor. Ooh, Gabor. I wonder if Gabor was slowed down getting through the back markers. Prasant, big slide coming up over the crest there, nearly collided with that back marker after the start-finish line. Not sure what happened there. He may have been unsighted. There's a slight bend coming past the start-finish line. Maybe just didn't realize the back marker was there, or just caught the back marker more quickly than anticipated. That could have been our safety car moment, but narrowly avoided by Prasant.
Yeah, it looked like just maybe a lack of communication between the two of them, which way they were going to go there. But we've got Jacobs into the pits now. Wonder if it's just, I think probably a tyre change and some fuel, which I'll find out shortly. Yeah, fuel and tyres. So that looks like it could suit him to the end of the race with just 35 laps to go for him.
Looking down the order, I see that Ayub Elanouni has rejoined once more. Probably, I'm sure this is frustrating for him. He was running 5th, fell back to 12th or 13th, recovered to 10th, back in the points. Actually, I believe he had made it up to 9th, or was catching Tres Palacios in 9th, and then disconnected once more. So a lap off 12th position, has a lot of time to make up to even begin fighting for P10, but not giving up. We admire his spirit. He's taken a couple setbacks, but he's come back each time to continue fighting. So we appreciate that from Ayub Elanouni. As we see, Sean Lee has resumed his chase of Alexi Lemerto in 2nd position. This is an admirable drive from Sean. Nobody has the pace to match Alexi Lemerto, but he's only a few tenths off here and there. In 42 laps, he has lost 22 seconds. So Sean Lee, the only one even close to pacing Alexi Lemerto today, except for Zdravko Doponiak, who has, we'll remind you, fallen off the order as he comes through a back marker. Fell down the order earlier on the back of a drive-through penalty, caused a collision with Gabor on the opening lap.
I think without that drive-through penalty, quite possibly could be having a fight with Sean Lee, because with it being around 25-ish seconds, you lose for a drive-through penalty. That would have put him just a couple seconds off the back of Sean Lee. That would so.
Yep, and we'll remind everyone he would be fighting with Sean Lee, having overtaken a bunch of cars with an extra pit stop. Sean Lee having done one fewer pit stop than Zdravko Doponiak, who took that early stop to go from R2s to R3s. So Zdravko Doponiak has the pace to match Alexi Lemerto today, but Sean Lee on superior strategy and not punting his competitors, running comfortably in 2nd position.
Yeah, that one helps to not get penalties. That does.
It does. You would know about that, wouldn't you, Tom?
Only occasionally.
I waited for my moment and baited Tom in and managed to dunk on him on stream. I'm so pleased with myself. I appreciate the courtesy laughs, Tom. The Yeah, the chuckles at your own expense. Tom's a good sport. He and I do a lot of driving together, so I will have my comeuppance in 15 or 20 laps at time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, Travis, if I don't laugh, I might cry, so you never know.
That's fair enough. I appreciate that. Maybe perhaps we're too hard on you. Still watching Zdravko Toponiak with that googly-eyed front wing, not affecting him, running really well. Whew, he used far more road than he needed to. That was a great shot, fun to watch, but my heart was in my throat for a minute. He doesn't need to be all the way out there, but if he's comfortable, I guess it's working for him. Oh, now we've got a great onboard shot from one of the best drivers in the field here. We didn't get a good onboard shot during qualifying because all of the drivers were aborting their laps. Back marker gets out of the way. Zdravko Toponiak going to keep the car as tight on the barriers as he can, weaving this ribbon of tire marks on the track. Just leans out of the throttle there as the car goes over the crest. Hard on the throttle. Over to the Armco on the left and down the hill. Tricky braking here because it's downhill. The front wheels want to lock. Manages to get the car tucked into both of these apexes. Misses the cement on the left side. Gives it plenty of room there, unlike his trip through the first bend. Going downhill on the first bend of this lap. Now down this motorway and out to the right side of the circuit. Tricky braking here because there's a bump in the middle of the road all the way out to the Armco. Wants to take a late apex here. Get the car tucked in down to the rumble strips on the inside, and then negotiate these barriers. Shorten the track as much as possible by keeping the car tight on the left. We'll see if he goes all the way out to the right once more. Maybe he's listening to the broadcast too. He gives it a little bit more room that time. Perhaps he also realized he was a bit close on the previous lap. That is a lap with Zdravko Toponiak. Nice and clean, very close to the barriers, very quick, very difficult in this car.
And Gabor is catching traffic here ahead, and as we talk about with the Zdravko Toponiak, he has gained 3 seconds on the leader in that lap, and Sean Lee Gabor's nicely through the traffic, moving out of his way for him, not trying to hold him up. Nicely done. But he's got another car ahead of him, I think, just one, maybe more. I have to see if we can see it in the shot, but he's absolutely just acing these corners as we're going around here nicely. Apexes to exits and all that. There we go. Look at that. Lovely.
Yeah, it's a shame Gabor was off early because I think, well, a shame that Gabor was off early and off because of the collision with Zdravko, because I think this could be a close fight at the front. Gabor obviously had to nurse damage and was losing time for much of this race. Has since repaired it and is running very quick laps now. Not quite matching Alexi Lemerto, but that could be a consequence of the back markers. Perhaps not on optimal strategy right now, but could have had a close race at the front, and Zdravko as well with an alternate strategy might have made it very interesting as we close in on the end of this race. But long way to go yet. Could still have a fight somewhere in the order. Sean Lee is still steadily falling back from Alexi Lemerto. Zdravko Toponiak is catching him on his alternate strategy. More alternated by I've made up a word there, by his drive-through penalty. But a lot of action to see yet. Hearing in my ear that the driver of the day poll is live. We should have a link in chat for that, so please do click that link. Go vote for your driver of the day. You've got plenty of time yet, 30 laps remaining in this race. And if you want to bide your time to make your decision, you certainly can do that. As we watch Sean Lee come through, should be starting his 46th lap of the race now. We'll reset the order. Alexi Lemerto still in the lead, steadily pulling away from Sean Lee in second position, who is steadily losing times, who's Zdravko Toponiak. Zdravko Toponiak now within one pit stop of Sean Lee. If Sean Lee stops, Zdravko Toponiak will be promoted to second position, unless he stops at the same time, which could be a possibility. We cannot read these drivers' minds. Gabor in fourth position with the fastest lap of the race, or at least the purple box. We will check on that. Prasant Sandarvelu, the other Pixel Air Attack newsroom machine, teammate to Sean Lee, strong running today in fifth position. Rony Krompush should be very happy with this performance today in sixth position. David Gaj, as we watch Rony, good timing there. Rony diving into the back marker, going through that right-hand corner, coming onto the back of the circuit. Back to David Gaj in seventh position. We'll have Akshay in eighth, and then Alejandro Trespalacios in ninth position. Jeff Jacob in 10th. Challenging day for him. In 11th position, we have Morali. And then Costa in 12th, and Ayub El-Anouni still going around, though he's disconnected twice, was demoted from 5th position after his first disconnection. Very frustrating day for him, but he's not given up. still on for points. He's on the same lap as Costa in 12th. Needs to make up one more lap in order to fight for that 10th position, perhaps 9th position. Long way to go. A lot of action yet to unfold. Maybe we can hopefully we can have a chat with him after the race. We'll see if he pops in, and we can ask him about his run to try to recover.
Yeah, and we've had 3 retirements here today. Pablo Satoni, Guilherme Moreira, and Matthias Sanchez are your 3 people who have retired from today's race as well. As you see, Alexi Lemerto going past the back marker nicely.
Yeah, well, maybe if Roney watches back the replay at the end of the race, I think a few drivers might be frustrated with him trying to get through Roney when he was running around as a back marker. Some of the drivers, perhaps, I don't want to say recklessly, but in surprising places, getting out of the way, but getting out of the way nonetheless to let the leaders through. As we watch Sean Lee come through this Sukens Bends one more time, this downhill sweeper, less than 20 seconds to Zdravko Deponiak now. Zdravko Deponiak is chipping away at that lead, though we expect he will have to stop one more time unless he makes these tires go the distance. We'll need to check on those and see if the equipment will go. Though based on his pace, he probably doesn't have the fuel to make it unless he is truly stunning us even further with fuel saving pace. I don't believe that is the case.
Yeah, I think
he comes down the hill one more time.
I think from his conversation we had with him, he said for this strategy mainly to work, you're going to want to see a safety car on the last 10 to 20 laps, which is then going to put the leader under the pressure on whether you want to go for that stop and change onto a set of R4s if they stayed on R3s, or change onto a new set of R3s, otherwise risk being attacked from someone on slightly fresher tyres.
And we've said a couple times during the race that a safety car is always a possibility here because of how tight the circuit is, how easy it is for one mistake to turn into a big accident. But less chance now. All the drivers are pretty well spread out. But we have 18 laps remaining. 18 laps remaining, 28 laps remaining. Once again, struggling with arithmetic. Trying to do my addition and subtraction while watching Zdravko Deponiak narrowly avoid the barriers as we jump ahead once again to Alexi Lemerto. More back markers to negotiate just ahead of him. A clinic from Alexi Lemerto today, as we're accustomed to seeing. Tight on the barriers on the apexes, tight on the barriers on the exits. Very clean drive from him. No drama, no fuss. Just a beautiful drive in the lead of this race with no challenges behind him. Though, speaking of challenges, not Alexi Lemerto, my mistake, Zdravko Deponiak has taken a big chunk out of Sean Lee in the last couple laps. There was a 20-second gap that is now down to 17. So I wonder if Sean Lee had a bit of trouble negotiating back markers, or if Zdravko Deponiak has just turned up the wick a little bit. As we see him fly through the compression once more and on the brakes into the first corner. He is catching Sean Lee tenths at a time, so could yet have a race on our hands for second position as the laps wind down.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know how long he said the R2s could last, but I wonder if it could probably get 10 laps out of a set of R2s. I don't know if you can, but that might be an option for him. If he's already been on R2s, hasn't he? So he won't be able to do that. But Shane, maybe lose a lot of time, I think, actually.
Yeah, and judging by his pace, the tires are wearing a bit thin and they are starting to cool off, so I anticipate we will see him in soon for his final stop, a short fuel stop. I am watching Zdravko come through Ayub El-Anouni in the background as we see Alexi Lemerto on cameras negotiating the inner part of the circuit. Yeah, Zdravko, I anticipate, will probably have maybe another 5 or 10 laps on these tires. He could probably stretch them a bit further than that. But it will depend on his fuel load. He will be coming in relatively soon, and we should see a very strong finish from him.
Here in Alexi Lemerto will need to put for tyres sooner than that. So depending on when Sean Lee goes into the pits, then Sean Lee will, I'm assuming, inherit the lead because it's there 25 seconds cost you driving through the pit lane. So we'll see where he pops out.
Yeah, suddenly. I wonder if Sean Lee is struggling a little bit on old rubber. Zdravko carrying a bit of damage, but also carrying incredible pace, has cut the lead from 20 seconds to 15 just in the last 3 laps. So using the low fuel load and leaning on the tires really, really hard, using his equipment as much as he can. picking up the pace before his final pit stop. I think we will have a race. We will have a nice scrap on our hands in the closing laps as Zdravko Deponiak catches Sean Lee, also catching Alexi Lemerto. All three of them yet to stop. I don't believe either of them will have a challenge for Alexi Lemerto, but Sean Lee and Zdravko Deponiak will fight for this second position as Zdravko is catching Sean, and they both have to make their final pit stops. Sean Lee drops another second to Zdravko Deponiak on that lap. So Sean going backwards, Zdravko going forwards. To watch Sean Lee and see if something's out of sorts with the machine or if he's just conserving to get to his final stop.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe he's picked up some sort of damage somewhere, or maybe just struggling with the mouse. Maybe just his grip's going on that slightly, because it's a lot more corners, a lot of demanding going from side to side of it. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's how he's feeling.
No, I think Sean. My guess is that Sean is just managing the car because he doesn't have bad damage. He's worked the right rear suspension. He's worked the right rear suspension pretty hard, which I think that makes sense because that part of the car would take the most load in the compression leading into the first corner. But still very much drivable. He won't have to worry about repairing that before the end of the race. And the tires are in good shape. My guess is that he's just a little bit off the pace in the last few laps managing the car, or perhaps slowed down getting through some back markers, though we don't see anyone anywhere near him. Zdravko Deponiak catching him, though. That gap now down to just less than 14 seconds.
Yeah, he's gaining about a second a lap there, so he's going to have the time to close in and go for him. So we're going to have to see what happens with the pit cycle is, I think, really going to determine whether it's going to get a battle or he's going to sort of just get past him in the pit lane.
Yes, indeed. I've thought of a question while we're talking about these two going around and Zdravko catching Sean. I've thought of a question to ask him after the race, and that is, why does he do this to himself and go to these odd strategies or these minor setbacks early in the race? Because we know he has the pace to compete at the front, and we see these very exciting performances from Zdravko where he falls back and then just lights up the timing tower, catching his competitors ahead of him. Yeah. Oh, hearing Mo has said in our ear that he didn't have time to work on the setup, so perhaps the setup isn't quite right, and he's been feeling it out during the race. Obviously, he had the setback of that collision with Gabor early on, which cost him some time. Otherwise, he'd be running right up there with Sean Lee now, perhaps up with Alexi Lemerto. So setup not quite to his liking, perhaps, but he is just lighting up the timing sheets, putting the power down out of the final corners. We watch Roni Krompush stop in his box now. Zdravko is going to come through to put Roni another lap behind himself. Fuel only for Roni Krompush we're hearing as we see Zdravko go through, tight on the barriers once more. I'm sure he's listening to us and trying to give us a heart attack.
The gap is down. Sorry, it's just 11 and a half seconds, isn't it? Yeah. It's really coming down.
And judging by the condition of the tires, I think they will be stopping pretty close to the same lap.
Either way, it looks like it's definitely going to be a race on its hands for us to watch. It's quite fantastic. I wonder if...
I agree.
He's just hit the wall. That's not going to help him at all. I wonder if maybe he should consider... I know it's nice to do a reverse strategy to put yourself slightly off, so have a better chance maybe towards the end. But if he wanted to try doing the bit where he go for a later pit stop when everyone's spread out more, and so you're not fighting your way through people, you've got the back markers that are just going to let you on through.
Yeah, perhaps. One thing I've noticed that's really interesting is that one is that Alexi Lemerto should be in a couple laps time. The tires starting to go through the coldest part of the cycle as they wear very thin, so we should see Alexi Lemerto pretty soon as we are on board with Zdravko Deponiak going to go through one of the back markers. This back marker should dive out of the way. He does. Zdravko through the compression now and into the first corner. Alexi Lemerto and Sean Lee. This is perhaps a bit more obvious for Sean Lee because he has to use the mouse, so he's constantly in the traction control to get the power down. Sean has worn the rear tires more than the fronts. Alexi Lemerto has also worn the rear tires a bit more for the fronts than the fronts. Don't know if he's driving without traction control. We can check on that. But Zdravko Deponiak, though he is not as comfortable with his setup as he would like to be, has gotten the balance of the car perfect. The wear on the front and the rear nearly identical. So Zdravko Duponiak taking excellent care of his equipment. The balance of the car looking really good, though it's still not quite a match for Alexi Lemerto, though the balance perhaps not quite the same as Zdravko Duponiak's car. It is certainly, the proof is in the pudding, and he is there in the lead comfortably ahead of Sean Lee, who is now only 10 seconds ahead of Zdravko Duponiak. So Zdravko making up time, looking for P2, and to demote Sean Lee to P3 at the closing laps of this race, 21 to go.
Yep. So I'm just hearing on car 7 and 46, the only ones in this race who aren't running traction control. So at the moment, that is anyway. So I don't know if they're trying to be a bit more aggressive, trying to see how close they can get to the fastest lap, or if they're not concerned about the rear tire wear.
That's also, I think it's an interesting challenge too, to try to be able to drive this car without traction control, because there is so much power and the car is so light. And if you can do it, it is very challenging. It's difficult to do, but if you can drive this car without traction control and get the power down, you get a bit more flexibility with how you can drive the car. You can use the power to help the car turn. You can get a little bit more power down a little bit earlier. If you're that good, you can eke out a few more hundreds here and there if you're not dipping into the traction control. But it is very, very difficult to do. The gap now down below 10 seconds, a little more than 9 for Zdravko Duponiak to Sean Lee. This race is heating up. Zdravko Duponiak is coming. We've said this before. He chased down Alexi Lemerto in the final race of the previous BF1 league 1 year ago. Came up about 1.5 seconds short of snatching a championship away from Alexi Lemerto. Now putting on another one of the performances we're accustomed to seeing from him today, where he goes backward and then drives through the field to give us an exciting finish. Less than 9 seconds now, 8 and change to Sean Lee. Zdravko Duponiak, he is coming. Sean Lee driving well in second position, but at this point does not look like it is going to hold up. These two will be racing one another in a straight fight for this second position in the closing laps of the race.
Yeah, I think if you're Sean Lee in this position, you're going to be looking, you're going to think, what can you do to halt this advance? He's just absolutely flying up on the back, and you've got to be thinking about maybe trying to go in the pits early and get your tyres changed, get a fresh set of tyres maybe, or just you got to think of something to do, because at this rate, you're going to be conceding second place.
I think Sean Lee, so we've seen some ragged performances from Sean Lee in the past where he gets a little bit flustered late in the race, but today he has been very, very solid, very consistent. He stayed out of the barriers. He's taking care of the car. He's taking care of the tires. He's doing everything right, and we know he's talented and quick, so he could fight with Zdravko for this position. He's weaving. He can hear me. He is matured. He is matured as a driver as Zdravko comes in the pits, so he's coming in for new equipment. I was saying Sean Lee has matured immensely as a driver, and he's showing it here today. So we'll see if he puts on a fight for this second position. We hope he does, but we know he has learned with time and experience to use a bit more discretion. So Sean Lee on for a solid third position, virtually guaranteed today if he does give up this second position to Zdravko Duponiak. But he does have the benefit of clean air. He could put in some quick laps now while he has low fuel and the tires are still working in his favor. But if he does choose to concede this position to Zdravko Duponiak, I don't think anyone would blame him. It would be a well-deserved third position.
Yeah, just hearing that Zdravko Duponiak has gone for fuel and tires, so he's pulled the trigger first. He's gone for the new set, and he's going to go hunt him down. Now is what he's got to do, get heat cycle sorted and get hunting. He's only 5 seconds-ish behind Gabor now. He's probably going to drop a little bit while the tyres are coming up to temperature, and then we'll see how they're doing there. Sorry, 12 seconds it's showing on our timing tower now.
Yeah, and with 19 laps remaining, I wonder if he will have chosen to take R2s. I doubt it. He thought R2s could work, but I think his R2 strategy call we may have misinterpreted the notes that he gave us early on, where he did a very short R2 stint rather than going longer on R2s before taking R3s. These tires heating up pretty quickly. Going to guess these are R3s. We will check on that as we watch Sean Lee on the broadcast. Just
hearing that Gotch and Sandoval had a crash. Sandoval came out the pits, So as you can see, there's damage to the front right there of Godge and Sandoval. It looks like it's got front left damage. I'm not 100% sure on that from that angle, but we'll see how they're playing out and possibly a penalty coming the way of Sandra Deval. As Altsu has come into the pits for what will be his final stop of the race. Going to hear if it's probably going to be tyres and fuel. We'll hear about that in a second. He's moving again. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was about to say, hearing that he is taking tires and fuels. We watch Sean Lee come through one more time. Sean Lee will inherit the lead of the race for one lap. Ooh, no, not quite. Alexi Lemerto. I didn't see Alexi Lemerto get away. He is coming through the pit exit now, so he will be ahead of Sean Lee. Sean Lee, he gave it a valiant effort to lead a lap in this race, but Alexi Lemerto just ahead of him. Sean Lee will be in soon. Zdravko Deponiak running fourth right now, but I believe he will be promoted back to third position because Gabor will probably need to make one more stop. We'll check on that to make sure that's accurate. It could be that Gabor has pulled off a cheeky strategy move and secured third position. May yet to stop. Need to check on that as the back marker jumps out of the way there. Yeah, the race though. The race here is between Zdravko Deponiak and Sean Lee. So we know Sean Lee needs to stop, and Zdravko Deponiak was catching him. Sean Lee should be a bit quicker once he gets onto new rubber. We'll wait to see him come into pit lane. So we watch Gabor come through here.
Just heard him here that Gabor is still on his original set of tyres, so he will need to take a pit stop as he hit the wall again. So he is going to be dropping down to fourth place with that one.
Yeah, so there we have it. Thank you, Tom. Gabor will be stopping one more time, will not be in the fight for a podium position. In that case, we do wait to see Sean Lee come into pit lane. Sean Lee, who has caught Alexi Lemerto a few tenths on that lap, not going away. We know Sean has to stop one more time because those tires are wearing dangerously thin. Has cut the gap to 2 seconds. I think Alexi Lemerto is perhaps playing with the driver behind him. Or just conserving the car because he knows he doesn't have to fight anyone to secure this victory. Sean nice and smooth through here, easy into the throttle. You can hear him dipping into the traction control, reminding everyone that he is driving with the mouse very smoothly. Easy into the power there. And down the hill through these sweeping bends. Closing in on Alexi Lemerto. This is impressive from Sean. Wonder if Alexi will let him through instead of fighting. Just give both of them room. Let Sean get on with his fight for Zdravko Deponiak. Alexi will have been watching the timing while he's driving, so he'll know that it is close between these two. And Alexi Lemerto doesn't want anything to do with Sean Lee. He is comfortably in front of this race. He doesn't have to fight Sean. He can let Sean through. It's not for the effective lead of the race. Maybe give him a bit of help here. Ooh, so here's an interesting thought, Tom. Do you suppose that Alexi would tow Sean around to try to give him a little bit of an advantage and fight with Zdravko to keep a points buffer? Do you think there is some five-dimensional chess in the Finn's head?
Well, I'm not 100% sure on that, but what I think I just heard that he span there with somebody else. I think there might have been Connor of Godge. It was hearing, so we'll find out what happened there. I think, is that reverse what happened earlier? Sean Lee is he's right on the back of Alexi Lemerto. He's really hassling him, trying to make a move on. His tyres are up to temperature, and he's really putting the pressure on now. He wants to get that lead. He wants to be able to say he's led that lap. So we'll see if he's able to get him down the long straight into the heavy braking zone coming up here.
Yeah, so here's the answer to our earlier question, is that Sean Lee is willing to fight for this second position. He's all over Alexi Lemerto, clearly quicker at the moment. Whether Alexi Lemerto is just pacing to try to preserve the car, or if he's trying to keep Sean behind him. But I think it would be better for Alexi to just let him through and let Sean get on with his race. Alexi doesn't have to fight. Sean Lee clearly wants to secure the second position. Sean's lifted to secure the slipstream here. He should be through. Times this perfectly to duck to the inside, and he will be through Alexi Lemerto. Alexi Lemerto is going to go wide and let Sean Lee have the position. Wisely done by Alexi. Alexi doesn't need to fight this. I don't understand why he's fighting with Sean Lee, though he may not know. So it is possible that Alexi Lemerto does not know that they are on alternate strategies. Wisely let Sean through.
he might have thought Alexi's just Sean Lee's just pulled an absolute blinder on him, and so we'll have to see. I think he's going to be very relieved when he see Sean Lee pull into the pits in a couple of laps. But I wonder if Sean Lee would have worked slightly better for him if he just sat behind Alexi for a few laps and just lifted a bit. And I'm just hearing Gabor had a puncture, so he's into the pits to do, I believe, tire change and fuel, and he'll be back on his way down in, I believe, 4th place. And Zdravko is now back up to 3rd place, and he's just got to keep going and start hunting, as Sean Lee is pulling away from Alexi Lemerto there, but it's not going to last because he will have to go into the pits.
He has 14 laps remaining. I don't think we've seen Sean try to do this before. To try to forgive my misspeaking there. I had a bit of a stroke, I think. Sean Lee, we've seen him try to do this before, make these tires last much longer than other drivers would dare. 14 laps remaining in the race. I don't think the tires could go the distance, but if he's pulled off just an insane strategic move here and a competitive drive with Alexi Lemerto, that would be something. I can't imagine these tires will last.
I think he doesn't have the fuel either. I think that's another thing he's got. I'll have to check on that, but I don't think he'll have the fuel for it.
Yeah, I think you're certainly right there, Tom. There's no way he has the fuel to go to the distance. It's certainly not with this pace. That would be, I could hardly imagine being more impressed if it's the case that if he's actually managed to pull this off. But I think it is the case that he does have to stop. He does have to take fuel, though he is using the equipment to stretch a gap on Alexi Lemerto. Zdravko Deponiak is really far back, 38 seconds. So he will. That's about the amount. It's a little more than the amount of time it takes to go down pit lane and take service. We watch Sean Lee go through one more time. Sean Lee using the machine he has beneath him to stretch that gap ever so slightly. Alexi Lemerto just hanging back about 1 second behind now. I think Sean Lee doesn't have the pace to gap him, and Alexi Lemerto has thought better of trying to fight with Sean Lee, but Sean Lee fighting hard for this second position. An impressive drive from him, not over yet. And Zdravko Deponiak, watching him, he is not closing this gap. Sean Lee doing the deed in front of the pack right now. First position on the merit of his own pace. He passed Alexi Lemerto on track, fair and square. And now trying to preserve this gap to Zdravko Deponiak so he can secure second position.
Yeah, watching though, the gap isn't really falling. I think it's closing a little bit. A couple attempts that lap, it came down a bit. So we'll have to see how it does overall. But I think with the full pit stops and all that that Sean has to do, it's going to go back to Zdrav. Number is going to get that second place.
Yeah, and I'm watching Zdravko in the background right now. He is going through the most challenging part of the stint, the heat cycle with the tires, where the pressures are up and the core of the tire is in ideal condition, but the surface temperatures are a bit warm. So the car will be sliding a little bit. It'll be difficult to brake, especially on the downhill corner, the downhill hairpin that he just went into. The tires will want to lock up on the braking. Very tricky braking right there. So he has to manage this car for 2 or 3, maybe 4 more laps to get the tires into their the optimal part of the heat cycle, and then set off to catch Sean Lee, who has now put another 1.5 seconds on Alexi Lemerto ahead of him. Sean really impressive in front of the order right now. Looked like he was quietly on for a fight with Zdravko Deponiak for second position. Taking advantage of the lead of this race to put in quick laps, though hearing that Zdravko Deponiak does have the advantage on pace, ever so slightly quicker than Sean Lee right now, who has yet to stop. Coming up on 10 laps remaining in this race, Sean Lee will need to come in soon. He could, here's a thought, Tom. Could Sean Lee make R2s work? Can he go long enough that he could do a final stint on R2s?
You know what,
goes
Travis?
Through one more time.
I was waiting for you to finish your point so I could come up with that. So I think we're having the same train of thought here. I think he's just trying to extend it, use as much as he can now, so he can get on those R2s and really give a good fight at the end. Which I'm not sure. I don't know how long those R2s are set to last. We saw Zdravko only did 4 laps on them there, so he's gonna have to probably do another 4 or 5 laps at least on these tires if he wants to do the R2 strategy.
And we know that because he's driving with mouse, that he relies on the traction control so heavily to get drive out of the corners that it's going to be, he's going to use the rear tires, and especially on R2s, they will heat up more quickly for him, especially at the rears. The rear of the car is going to slide more on him, and it's much easier to flat spot them. So, yeah, I guess we wait and see what Sean Lee chooses to do. Perhaps he has set up the car to pull off this strategy. Perhaps not. Weaving now to indicate to the back marker or to us that perhaps we've read his gigabrain strategy as the back marker jumps out of the way. He could have been signaling 2 things there. 1, please get out of my way, and 2, Tom and Travis, you guys are brilliant. He goes through once more. So we've seen Sean do this, and it's getting, this is nip and tuck for Sean now. This is a bit risky because those tires are getting very, very thin. We've seen him go around with 4 punctured tires in the past when he left it just a little bit long. Ooh! Alexi Lemerto just avoiding the back marker there. I don't think the back marker realized. I didn't see who the back marker was. Didn't realize he was there, and then went deep in the corner. And Alexi Lemerto had to zip inside him on the exit of the corner. Morali, watching him now. Yeah, dodged a bullet for Alexi Lemerto. That would have been a heart-stopping moment for him as we look to Gabor, whose race has gotten better than it started, but he'll be disappointed with 4th place, I think. He was on for 2nd, perhaps a win.
Yeah.
A first-lap collision with Zdravko set him back.
Not 100%, but I think maybe you'll be having 3rd place in the championship after this race if the positions stay. I'm not 100% on that one, but we'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out come the end of the race at least.
Yeah, we've got, there we go, watching Sean Lee come through the final corner one more time. I have got both eyes firmly affixed on his tires. He's coming into pit lane. Oh, a very fast entry. He uses all the road on the pit lane speed limit. This is going to be too long for R2s. He's just crossed the line to start the 68th lap. This will be 8 laps on R2s. He's gone to R4s. He has to change compounds, so he's gone to R4 instead of R2. Watching Zdravko Deponiak come down the motorway now, down the hill and on the brakes. He is going to be miles behind Sean Lee. Sean Lee has pulled off a blinder of a strategy call and is comfortably in 2nd position. He does have to get R4s around. So Zdravko's, this will be about 8 or 9, maybe 10 seconds when this finally shake out. Sean Lee has benefited from getting by. Oh no, he was ahead of Ronan Krompush. Decides to let Ronan Krompush through. Sean Lee is going to have to work these R4s very hard to get them up to temperature. The pace is going to be lacking in these tires for several laps. He might be benefiting from driving with the mouse here because the leaning on the traction control, he can get a bit more heat in those rear tires. But Zdravko Deponiak is on R3s that are now in the optimum part of their heat cycle. Sean Lee has it all to do here. Thought perhaps he pulled off a brilliant strategy call. Turns out that I was horribly wrong. But he is in front. Zdravko is not there yet. Sean Lee has driven very well today. That is a 7, almost 8-second gap that Zdravko needs to make up in the next 7 laps. So not over yet. Sean Lee, this will be challenging, but it's not over.
One thing with Zdravko as well is that, yes, he can get to him, but getting to someone's one thing and getting past is another thing. Sean just has to go defensive. If he can stay ahead of him into turn 2 and turn 3, then he should be able to just hold the gap and keep going. I'm saying that, and Zdravko's taken another second out of him, so surely at this rate it's not gonna last, but we'll have to see what sort of defensive effort Sean can put up to hold that 2nd place.
I mean, he's smooth through here, but the tires are still frigid. The surfaces just coming into the light blue, so the temperature's not quite there yet. He's got at least one more lap before he has any temperature in these tires. Zdravko's temperature is coming into the optimum part of the heat cycle now. Clattering the barrier certainly isn't going to help. If Sean Lee's listening, I'm sure he will have loved to hear that. But Zdravko, superior pace right now. Sean is going to be struggling. He let Roney through, and Roney has disappeared. And they will come through to start the 71st lap in just a moment.
I wonder if the optimal strategy could have been possibly to start on R4s and go R4s for the most of the race, and then it could have possibly extended them for a couple of laps more and gone for R2. I'm being told I'm talking rubbish by the producers.
Yeah, there's just too many slow corners around this circuit. The tires, you can see Sean, the surfaces of the tire heat up when he goes through the compression, and there's so much load on the tire. Then they cool down as he comes through the hairpin here. So Sean, one more lap before these tires have any amount of workable temperature in them. And Zdravko is coming. That gap now down below 6 seconds. So we watch David Godge at 7th position come across the line, getting a bit of exposure for the back markers, while we await Zdravko Toponiak to arrive on the scene with Sean Lee. Even though he does not have ideal equipment, Sean Lee is making it work. That gap to Roney ahead of him, a back marker, is staying steady now, though it will only be a lap or two before we see Zdravko arrive on the scene with Sean Lee. Looking forward from Zdravko now, we should be able to see Sean Lee ahead of him when we come down the front stretch after we negotiate this sequence of bends, obscuring the back of Sean Lee's machine.
He's just taken half a second out of him through that slowest middle sector there, so it's quite clear that where these R3s are going to be so much faster than the R4, and then I think Sean's just got to hope and pray at this point. But it's only 5 or 6 laps now is all he's got left, and the gap is down to just about 5 seconds, so he's just got to hope he doesn't gain it more than a second a lap at this point.
Yeah, I watched Sean go through and then Zdravko go through, and Zdravko was 7/10 quicker on that lap. That will not be enough to close the gap before the end of the race. So Sean Lee picking up the pace, temperature coming into those tires. Zdravko, the tires coming back to him now. This will be close. So we heard ahead of Zdravko, I heard a back marker go off. I couldn't tell I think Zdravko went around a back marker through the chicane there, but we couldn't see it. If he did, the car was obscured by the barriers, but I could hear another car there. Yeah. Zdravko going wide to avoid something.
Yeah. I think Zdravko just doesn't quite have the pace to close in on Sean Lee. I think Sean Lee's done an excellent job. I think he's planned this quite well, but he's gaining fast, but I don't think it's quite enough. We'll have to see shortly.
Yeah. It'll be pretty tight. 5.5 seconds from Zdravko to Sean Lee. Speaking of Zdravko, as he comes through the final bend once more, Zdravko Toponiak leading the driver of the day poll right now. Still open and still a bit of excitement yet to come. Yeah, Zdravko Toponiak closing on Sean Lee. Don't know if it will be enough. Could be a close fight, but Sean Lee has picked up the pace. That the poll closes at 5 UTC, so plenty of time yet to vote for your favorite driver. Ayub El-Anouni, we talked about him earlier, was driving a very comfortable 5th position before he fell down the order after disconnecting, recovered, back into the points, disconnected, fell down again, and now back into the points once more. Probably won't be able to track down 9th position, but a great recovery by Ayub. A very frustrating day for him, but we admire his spirit, recovering back to 10th position, taking a point despite a couple serious setbacks.
Yeah, I wonder if we can see where the gap between Ayub and the car in front of him is, because I know there's a lap difference, but it's 42 seconds. He's not going to be able to close that. So.
No, he certainly won't. The gap from Zdravko Toponiak to Sean Lee still holding at 5 seconds. So Sean Lee making it work. Gone on to R4s, which was not ideal, but he's found something. He's worked some heat into the tires and found pace to match Zdravko Toponiak. Bar a mishap or a surprise, looks like Sean may have secured himself a very well-deserved 2nd position. Zdravko not giving up. Both of them have back markers to negotiate. Zdravko coming through Jeff and Jacob, who gets out of the way now, watching Ayub following Sean Lee through. Sean Lee will need to get through Roney Krompush up the road. Sean let Roney through a few laps ago, but now catching him pretty easily. So Sean, one more back marker to negotiate. Zdravko needs to take advantage of this right now. Ooh, we just switched to Ronnie Krumpush right as he went across the nose of Sean Lee. Couldn't tell if Sean Lee was trying to get through, or if Sean tried to make a dive and then thought better of it. So this is the race here. Ronnie Krumpush clearly holding up Sean. Sean weaving, letting Ronnie know that he is not pleased about that. Sean will get good drive off the corner here. So does Ronnie. So Sean a little bit far back.
Yeah, I think the gap, all of this going on, I think the gap's getting closer. It's not going to be enough, but it's down. I think it's 4 seconds the gap now. Maybe a little bit less, and not 100%, but it's 4.4. So he's losing time being stuck behind in there. But I don't think he needs to worry too much. I don't think it's enough time that he's losing.
Yeah, the back marker lets Zdravko through easily in the first corner, so Zdravko would have had the benefit of slipstream, gets through the back marker easily in the first corner. So Zdravko released to catch Sean Lee. No cars between them now. Ronnie holding up Sean. Sean will be very frustrated by this. Ayub, my mistake, is Ayub is still between Sean Lee and Zdravko Toponiak, but I anticipate that Ayub will get out of the way as soon as Zdravko arrives on the scene. Ronnie throwing the wrench in the works for Sean Lee right now. Zdravko coming through the corner. We just saw Sean Lee depart. This is going to be a close race. They'll come across the line in a few moments' time with 2 laps remaining. Zdravko Toponiak now only 3 seconds behind Sean Lee. Ayub still trailing Sean. Sean still trailing Ronnie. Sean needs good drive off the corner to get into Ronnie's slipstream, but he's too far back. So this will be compromising him through the faster corners. Fortunately, not too many very fast corners here where you rely on the downforce, but Sean will be getting very frustrated. He needs to keep his head in it, just deal with the circumstances he's been dealt. The gap down to 3 seconds. This will be a very close finish.
Yeah, my money's still on Sean Lee. I think the gap is just too big still. I know he's stuck behind a back marker, but once he's got onto the back of Sean Lee, he needs to get past him. And yes, there's a long run to the line still, but it's gonna be close. It's 3 seconds now, and I think he just needed this a little bit earlier if Zdravko wanted to get on through.
Yeah, on board with Zdravko coming down the hill. Sean still stuck behind Ronnie, and we can see Zdravko Toponiak. He is there. And we know that Zdravko's getting great drive off these corners with the better rubber, more grip. We can see how smoothly he was driving through the infield, the inner part of the circuit. They're going to come through to the final lap. So I don't know that Ronnie is really holding up Sean at this point, but Sean will still be pretty frustrated. He would rather have 2 cars between him than just this one and be trailing Ronnie through the final lap. Zdravko now only 2 seconds behind and on superior pace as we watch Alexi Lemerto coming up the hill through the final part of the circuit. We'll go back and forth. Oh, Alexi just touches the wall there. He doesn't need to do that. We'll keep an eye on Alexi and on the battle for second place. Zdravko Toponiak can see the 3 cars ahead of him and Sean Lee in the back marker sandwich. Alexi Lemerto through the hairpin. Zdravko trying as hard as he can, just touches the wall, just misses the barrier. You can't add any closer than that. Zdravko Toponiak putting on one of his patented performances. We'll keep an eye on Zdravko and Alexi Lemerto. We'll catch Alexi Lemerto going across the line, and then we will watch Zdravko Toponiak in pursuit of Sean Lee. Alexi Lemerto through the final corner, rather wide. So we will keep an eye on Zdravko, who's through the hairpin. He touches the wall more time. He's gone deep in the corner. I don't think Zdravko has it, but Alexi Lemerto comes across the line to take the win. P1 as we look back to Sean Lee, who I think has a healthy enough gap on Zdravko Toponiak. Still following Ronnie Krumpush around, but it's not going to make a difference as long as he's safely through the final corner. He is power down. Ayub behind him, between him and Zdravko. Zdravko made a valiant effort, but Sean Lee is going to come through these sweeping bends and across the line for an incredible P2. A brilliant drive from Sean Lee. That is a tall order to make the R4s work that deep in the race and to keep Zdravko Toponiak behind you.
What
Incredible drive by
race.
Sean Lee. A fantastic effort by Zdravko Toponiak. Tom, what do you think of that?
I think Sean Lee did a fantastic job. We saw the gap coming down, and Sean Lee he did that final stint on those R4s. That's why he wanted to extend it. I think he just knew he was going to have the slower tyre, so he wanted to be on that tyre for as little time as possible. And so when he realised his lap times were going slower than what he'd be doing on R4s, he made the change. And I think he nailed the timings really. Probably quite frustrated being stuck behind Ronan Kronquist, but it is what it is. He still got the position, and Alexi Lemerto put on an absolute masterclass there to take the win, with Gabor taking fastest lap of the race.
I agree with every word of that. Our hands are a bit full, so I can't get over there to click the link, but I will say that Sean Lee is my driver of the day. A very mature performance from him. We've seen mistakes, and we've seen Sean Lee kind of make challenges for himself in the past, but today, brilliant drive from him, making the strategy work, withstanding the pressure late in the race from an intense competition with Zdravko Toponiak. Brilliantly done by Sean Lee. But all credit to Alexi Lemerto, a commanding win in 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 56 seconds. We see Sean do a pirouette in the background. Sean with the style points after getting Travis's driver of the day, pulls alongside Alexi Lemerto to take up the podium photo position in second place. Zdravko Toponiak, spirited drive from him, would have been a P2 had it not been for that drive-through penalty. Could have perhaps competed with Alexi Lemerto. That is a pit stop difference between Zdravko Toponiak and Alexi Lemerto. What could have been if he had not had to serve that penalty, but still well-deserved third position from him. Spirited drive at the end, put on a great show for us. Gabor recovers to fourth position after coming together with Zdravko early in the race. Gabor went all the way to the back. Zdravko Toponiak, recipient of that drive-through penalty because of his collision with Gabor. Ronnie Kronpush with a great fifth position finish. Great drive from him. Disappointing performance a few weeks ago, but puts on an excellent drive today to finish in the top 5. David Gaj finishes 6th. Prasant Sandravelu finishes 7th. He was on for a top 5 with his teammates. Still a strong performance from him. Akshay finishes 8th. Alejandro Trespalacios quietly into 9th position. Good points from him. And my runner-up driver of the day, Ayub Elanuni, the spirit and the determination to get back in the event after he was disconnected twice. He was on for a top 5. Very frustrating to be disconnected like that, but recovered twice. Fell out of the order once, disconnected again, and then came back up into P10 to secure a point despite his challenges. Jevon Jacob finishes 11th position. We have Morali in 12th, Costa in 13th, Pablo Cetone in 14th, Guilherme Moreira in 15th, and rounding out the order in 16th, not finishing the race, Sanchez in the 55 machine. Tom, your thoughts?
I'm blown away, and really am. It was a fantastic drive from pretty much everyone all round. Sean Lee, a fantastic performance, finished second. Absolutely masterclass performance from Alexi Lemerto, just gapping the field and just leaving it at nearly a pit stops gap. And then Zajac Toponiak, fantastic third place finish. Really feel bad for Ayub with his 2 disconnects. I mean, excellent performance to come back and take a single point there.
Yeah, please forgive Tom's laughter. Pete is giving him a hard time in his ear. That is Zdravko Toponiak that he was telling us about, though it wasn't entirely clear from his speech. Tom and I a bit breathless after covering all the action there at the end of the race, so we forgive him for that. We will take a break for a few moments. We invite the competitors to join the commentary box waiting room, and we will chat to you in a few moments' time. We'll be back shortly. We are back after the conclusion of round 2 of the MRC BF1 League Season 2 here at South City Long, rejoined once again by Tom Jones. And in the commentary box, we have the second and third place finishers. We will talk to Sean Lee first, who finished second. Sean, that was impressive. We were really, really impressed by your drive today. Could you tell us about it, please? Oh yeah, I think that's my mistake. Sean is changing a few settings, having a bit of a challenge with TeamSpeak. So we'll come back to him in just a second. Sean will rejoin you momentarily. Stravko Toponiak, thanks for joining us in the box. Take a moment here to make fun of Tom since he struggled so badly with your name as you were coming across the line to finish in an excellent third position. Tell us about your race. That was fun to watch.
I guess I need to rewatch that to have a laugh also.
You'll really enjoy it, I promise. Especially the racing noises entry with your name there. I feel like I really capped it off for you.
Well, firstly, I have to say I apologize to Gabor. I don't know really what happened. I had a good reaction on the lights, and I guess I had a lot better grip than everyone else around me because I just shot off the starting grid, and even before turn 1 I was already near Gabor, and I lifted a bit, but then his car just teleported a bit to behind, and I hit him straight on, and his car still went to the right into barrier, so there was definitely a lag involved. But yeah, I got a drive through for it, but it doesn't give back Gabor his race, so I'm sorry that it happened. I don't think, I mean, maybe I could have lifted a bit, but I didn't expect like to hit, so if I'm gonna drive expecting that somebody will lag, then I can only spectate. There's no point in racing, and it is what it is.
Unfortunate, but those things happen sometimes. So we appreciate your kind words to Gabor. He was able to recover to 4th position, probably not as high as he might have finished, but still a good recovery from him. Talk about the fight or your chase of Sean Lee there at the end. We thought you had it, but Sean pulled off a difficult strategy there at the end.
I thought I had it. On his second stint, I took like 20 seconds of his lead, and I was sure I have it done. I knew he has to. I think he changed tires. Right? I think he had to change tires to R4s or R2s. I just knew he had to change tires, and I had it in my mind that I'm ahead of him on the track. And then when he pitted, I was like 10 seconds behind, and I was not pushing on the last stint before that. And then I started pushing. And I think I was like a lap or two short. I will learn for next time around, and I will just push whole race. I mean, I pushed for 65 laps out of 76 in the whole race, and those 10 that I did not push cost me in the end. Yeah, I don't know. It's easy to say that I would probably be on his tail with pushing more. But one thing is to catch, and another thing is to pass, especially on Sean. He's a good defender. Also, I have to say that I lost count of the number of overtakes I did this race.
Yeah, you had a bunch to do going all the way to the back or near to the back with Gabor, and then driving through the order. We noted that as well. So strong performance from you today. I believe we have Sean in the box now. Sean, are you there?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah,
Okay,
since
great.
we have both of you here, Zdravko, you had that question for Sean about the strategy at the end. Sean, tell us about it.
Yeah, so I was on probably like 69 level R2s, R3s at the end. So I swapped over to R4s, and during testing on the setup, like the practice test, the R4s were pretty good on the set. I have no idea how. Like during the practice, I was doing high 15s on the way out of the pit. So I knew that I had disadvantage to number. Of course, he was coming very quickly, and I mean, he came from way back. So I was tracking his progress like a stream on the entire time. So at the end, pitted for R4s when I saw the time was getting lost to number, and I was just pushing, had to let Ronnie pass as well. That was interesting.
Yeah, tell us about that, because in those last few laps you were stuck behind Ronnie. Do you feel like he was holding you up much, or did you feel like he was roughly at your pace?
I had to take a wild guess. I think he was on R3s or something. With his pace, because on the cold R4s I had about like 2 or 3 laps to get them up to temperature. So I had to let him go because I mean, number, you were pushing really hard at the end.
I just checked the times, and without the driver, I could have probably won. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, we noted that as well there at the end of the race. So Sean, since you're both here together, Zdravko, you may have heard him say a few moments ago that he will learn for next time. How do you compete with Zdravko in the next round? Can you find enough pace to stay ahead of him and compete on the circuit? Do you feel like you're in the hunt for this championship? Tell us your feelings about the coming rounds in the season.
Sorry, who's the question for?
That was for you.
Oh,
how do you feel about your pace? How do you feel about competing at the front in the coming rounds of the season?
So I don't really think. I mean, the next round is at Aston. It's not really a difficult track on the acceleration, because on the mouse, like my hand is like completely stiff right now because I have to on every exit of the corner I have to set up in a way that it looks a bit like the Red Bull, so it squats on the exit, so it gives more stability. On every single exit for the past 76 laps, I've been turning the traction control off. And I have to control the car. So and I have to basically trail brake into the hairpin with mouse. I have to like audibly hear the lockup. So that's how I make the front tires last. Hopefully for the next round, Aston, it's not that bad. Maybe the air wash will be a bit of a nuisance following other cars, but I'm looking to take the fight. Maybe not to Eltsu, but maybe number. I don't know.
Well,
fair enough. And any go ahead, Tom.
Well, I can say I think your hands deserve the well-earned rest now.
Yeah, I was about to ask for closing thoughts from Zdravko. Zdravko, you won the driver of the day, or you're winning the driver of the day on the pole. Sean, I'll tell you both. Though you may have heard me, Sean. Sean, you were my driver of the day, an impressive performance into P2, and you've solidified my opinion after describing your driving today. Any closing thoughts from you two, Zdravko, then Sean?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a bit still under the effect of the race. I draw angry whole race. I don't know if you saw, but on a warm-up lap I got crashed, and then on turn 1 the leg hit with Gabber. I just draw angry whole race, and I had a strategy where I had 3 pit stops, so 1 more than everybody else, and I knew that I'm gonna lose 35 seconds to everybody else, and I was just pushing like. I would say like mad. I think I was whole race on the limit. The last 10 laps I pushed too hard. I guess I crashed I hit the wall every lap, I think, and I hit the wall on the places where it wasn't slowing me down. But at the end of the race, my car had damage. But it sucked starting the race with damage already because of the warm-up lap crash, and I don't know. I think I would be slower driving the calm race. Last round I was driving calm, slow, not focused, and this race I was just 100% flat out whole race, every lap, and I don't know. I think I could have won without all that happening, without damage before the start of the race, without another damage before the turn one, without the drive-through happening, all that costs. I saw that Gabber had more ultimate pace, but not by a lot. But I also saw that I was basically like 7 seconds behind Gabber after my first pit stop and a drive-through. So from that point on, Gabber had to do 2 pit stops and I had to do 2 pit stops. And I was like 7 seconds, 10 seconds behind him. And in the end, I was 18 seconds ahead of him. And I know he's not slow. So that's how hard I pushed. I pushed 25 seconds in a race on a Gabber. So.
Well, sounds like a frustrating day, but you impressed us and the viewers, and you get the consolation prize in the driver of the day. Sean, any final thoughts?
Yes, I think somebody's sitting outside waiting to come in, so I'll make this quick. Some race summary. Yeah, I almost got wiped out on the formation lap. After I have no idea who creamed into the BF number. That was scary. Having the most boring race in the middle, but having to keep the pace up, that was interesting. I was never in a position like that before. Always had to make my way up after, of course, failing on lap 1. And then, of course, making the pass on Alexi Lemerto. That was crazy because he didn't expect me to pass. And then, of course, at the end with the mind games with Ronnie and Ayub, I had to defend from Ayub, but also pushing Ronnie. So yeah, it's a one-of-a-kind race for sure. And South City always provides some action. Looking to carry the pace over to Aston, of course. I have no idea where I am on the championship after this, but hopefully I'll be able to not spin out or crash in the next one and get some points at least, maybe. And we'll see how we take it from there.
Well, thank you both for your thoughts and for putting on a great show for us today, and good luck in the next event. Tom, we've got one more interview.
Yeah, Rafael, are you there?
Yes.
So, well done on finishing 13th today. How did you find the race?
My race could be much better, but sadly in first lap, I think that Gabor hit me. I got back in last place, and with some hot tires, and that literally cost my race. But it was a really fun race. I also want to say sorry to number 2 because I hit him on formation lap, and that's it.
All right. Well, how did you find driving around the street circuit here? Which bits did you find like the most challenging during your race?
That track is a very nice track, to be honest. I really love to drive on this track, and I prepared myself very well to this race. I had a lot of fun on this track, to be honest, but sadly we ended in last position, but it was really nice.
All right.
And looking forward a few weeks to the race at Aston. I assume you will be there. You looking forward to that?
Next race is next year, right?
Yes, it is. January 9th. We have that on the screen right now, in fact. January 9th at Aston Touring.
I will not practice by now. I will first end my year. I will later the next year starts. I will probably start practicing same way I did for this race, and maybe we have a better race.
Well, fair enough. Take some time off, enjoy your holiday, get some practice in, and we hope to see you on January 9th. And thanks for joining us here in the box. All right, Tom, parting thoughts on this event.
Fantastic race. Quite surprised there wasn't a safety car because of how tight the track is. Did have a few instances, but I think we got lucky not to have a safety car. and I think it was thrilling from start. A little bit of a lull in the middle bit, but as the pit stop cycles worked through and everything bunched back up again, got really super exciting for the end.
It did. I agree with you. Congratulations to Alexi Lemerto, winner of the race, and thanks once more for Zdravko Deponiak and Sean Lee for putting on a great show for us, and then joining us in the box to talk about it as after the race concluded. This concludes the second round of the second season of MRC at BF1 League. My name is Travis Mehlinger. I've been joined today by Tom Jones. We've had Pete and Bo in the background helping us out. Jonathan Provost was the race director today. Thank you, everyone from MRC, Michael, Ricky, Tim Donater. I'm probably forgetting some names. I should have written these down. I'm sorry, guys, but we thank you so much for putting on this event for us. It has been very exciting. Thank you to everyone at NDR who has worked with the MRC team in order to help put on this event. We had an excellent race today. We look forward to an excellent race in a few weeks' time. We will see you at round 3 on January 9th, 2022. That'll be at the Aston Touring Circuit. From all of us at simbroadcast.tv, everyone competing, all of the organizers, thank you very much for joining us today, and have a great holiday.